Hi everyone, please subscribe to my channel. Blood Immortal. See playlist for other chapters and novels. Join now our Telegram channel now and enjoy exclusive early access. t.me/blood_immortal_official. I do not translate the novels. Credits goes to original translator and author of the novel. I only make it as an audiobook so it would be easier to just listen while doing other things. Credits goes to the author of the novel. I convert stories to audiobook for mental health, for multitasking purpose, for accessibility and time saving. Listening to audiobook is also beneficial for people who have disability. It improves our listening skills and improve our English comprehension, vocabulary and other things. So, thank you for listening. Thank you and thank you very much for your support. Chapter 821, Time to See the Three Perverts. Chapter 821, Time to See the Three Perverts. As the saying went, one should not air their dirty linens out in public. The god of the ancestor dragon did not want this issue to be made known to too many members of the colossal dragon race. He needed some time to digest this sudden revelation. After all, in his opinion, something like this was way unexpected. As the god of the ancestor dragon, how could his own son be this ugly? If, say, he were to look like a phoenix, then so be it. But, the main point was that he was worlds apart from looking like a phoenix. If he were to look like a colossal dragon, then so be it. But from head to toe, he didn't even have a single trait of his that looked like a colossal dragon. Kuktaku. Chicky laid in the embrace of this woman and crowed lowly as though he was reminiscing about his past right now. However, he had not forgotten the deal he made with his old bro. This show must carry on. Zifeng fondled Chicky's head endearingly and turned her gaze towards Lin Fan. My gratitude for bringing my child back to me. November LBJNN. Zifeng knew that her child was in the Xuanwang world. The fact that he was able to make it back here wasn't something that she had imagined. Initially, she was afraid that she might not ever get the chance to see Chicky at all in her entire life. But now that she was able to do so, she was naturally elated. As for the god of the ancestor dragon, back when he had to pull Zifeng back from the Xuanwang world, he paid a terribly high price for it as well. Lin Fan chuckled out calmly, "You don't have to thank me. I've known Chicky for such a long time now. It's only natural for me to help him seek his kin. That's part of my duties." Chicky, my son's name is Chicky. The moment Zifeng heard this name, her brows furrowed. She felt that this name was absolutely atrocious. Kuktaku. Chicky crowed out softly, indicating that he loved this name. Since my son loves it, we'll keep it like that then. Seeing how happy her son was over that name, Zifeng naturally did not harp on it. For Zifeng, the fact that she was able to meet with her son right now was already a joyous event worthy of celebrations. How could she be bothered with so many other things? However, for god of the ancestor dragon, this was quite an unbearable thing. As the son of the god of the ancestor dragon, how could he have a name as such? Wasn't this just an embarrassment? But, given the current situation, this didn't seem like something he could decide on anyways. By the looks of it, he might just be whacked up by everyone around if he had dared to say, no. Back down. God of the ancestor dragon swept his robes, indicating for everyone else to leave. This affair here was his family affair. He did not want to be observed by so many of his fellow race. As for the colossal dragon race members, they could tell that this matter had just gotten complicated. That living being that looked like a chicken was actually the descendant of the god of the ancestor dragon. If word of this were to get out, who in the world would believe this? Zifeng, let us head back and talk this through slowly. God of the ancestor dragon said with a tender and warm tone. The impact of this matter today was pretty severe for the god of the ancestor dragon. He wasn't prepared at all. Now that he had a child that came knocking on his doorsteps, he did not know what to do for a moment. Colossal Dragon Tower. The god of the ancestor dragon and Zifeng sat there, with Chicky just lying in the latter's embrace, being adored endlessly. Lin Fan sat below them. However, his mind was whirling rapidly, wondering what he should do. He had a motive for bringing Chicky over to the colossal dragon race this time around, which was to scam some Shenyang pills out of them. And now, Chicky's identity has gone far beyond Lin Fan's wildest imaginations. To think that the god of the ancestor dragon would be his daddy. If he had to scam this out, this would be practically wild. Cough, cough. At this moment, the god of the ancestor dragon coughed slightly. He wanted to say something. However, all of a sudden, he realized he really did not know what to say anymore. The god of the ancestor dragon did not know whether to laugh or cry in this situation right now. When he looked at how much Zifeng was doting on this kid, he felt as though a danger had just appeared in his life. How come my son still does not know how to speak? At this moment, Zifeng fondled Chicky's head gently while asking in slight bewilderment. Come, my son, swallow this and you'll be able to speak. At this moment, Zifeng took out a pill. While this pill wasn't some heaven-revolting pill by nature, it was made of extremely valuable ingredients. The main purpose of it was to open up one's wisdom and allow them to communicate through human language. Swallowing the pill, Chicky's body was engulfed in flames all of a sudden. Zifeng continued caressing that ball of flames, totally unbothered with it at all. Cuck, mother. At this moment, Chicky suddenly opened his mouth. And this single word that he said had Zifeng's heart blossoming with flowers as she was overwhelmed with joy. Lin Fan chose to remain silent the entire time. That was because he knew that this was the moment for Chicky to perform well. Nothing he said would do anything at all. Hence, he could only have Chicky perform on his own now. Daddy. Chicky spread out his wings and leapt over to the god of the ancestor dragon. The god of the ancestor dragon, on the other hand, held Chicky awkwardly in his embrace with a contemptuous look. If not for the fact that Zifeng was around, he might have even kicked Chicky out of this place entirely. HMPH. When Zifeng caught sight of the expression on the god of the ancestor dragon, her brows were raised as she let out a cold snort. Her meaning was clear: you had better do something about that attitude. When the god of the ancestor dragon received Zifeng's expression, he caressed Chicky's head awkwardly and replied, "Gee, good boy. Daddy, Mummy, Chicky can finally see you guys. Back when I opened my eyes in the Xuanwang world, my old bro was the only one who had been guarding me by my side. Later on, my old bro told me that you guys were in the upper world. Therefore, in all these years, Chicky had suffered a lot of hardships, and have been injured countless of times. Each time Chicky was in danger, Chicky would remember that as long as I raised my cultivation state, I would be able to see Daddy and Mummy by heading up to the upper world. And each time Chicky thought of this, Chicky would feel his entire body surging with energy. Now that Chicky was able to speak, the words that he spoke were absolutely startling. Even Lin Fan was a little shocked. When in the hell did Chicky know how to exaggerate so badly? And not only that, his exaggerations were pretty touching now. Oh, my poor child. It's all your dearest Mummy's fault that you had to endure all these hardships. The moment Zifeng heard these, she was blinded by Chicky's words as well. Dear Mummy, I'm hungry, Chicky spoke up. Ah, my dear son is hungry. Let your Mummy dearest have the maids prepare food. Zifeng replied frantically. No, I want to eat pills. I want to eat tons and tons of pills. Chicky continued coquettishly. When Lin Fan heard Chicky say these words, he put on a straight face immediately. The main point was here. My son, what sort of pills would you like to eat? Zifeng asked. Shenyang pills. I want to eat tons and tons of Shenyang pills. Chicky replied. Sure. Later on, we'll head over to your daddy's treasure stash. As long as my dear son likes it, you can take anything you want. Zifeng said with utmost adoration. The moment the god of the ancestor dragon heard this, his face changed as he let out a look of reluctance. Why now, you're unwilling or anything? If you can't afford to raise him, I'll just take my son back with me to the Phoenix race. I'm sure there'll be tons of people who will be willing to help me raise him. Zifeng scoffed icily. And no, that's not what I meant. The god of the ancestor dragon replied. Oh, dearest Mummy and Daddy, I've got 3 sons as well. And one of them has an even greater appetite than I do. He has to eat tons and tons of stuff. Chicky added. Ah, both Zifeng and the god of the ancestor dragon were stumped, as though they were unable to come to terms with it just yet. Zifeng then screamed out in joy, hurry and get them out for your Mummy to take a look. The god of the ancestor dragon was extremely agitated right now as well. The moment he thought of how this son of his did not look like him in the least bit, how could his grandsons possibly look like him at all? For the god of the ancestor dragon, all of these changes were happening way too quickly right now. With just a single sentence, he had gained a son, and 3 grandsons. This was one hell of a huge scam. Lin Fan was a little hesitant right now. Did this Zifeng and the god of the ancestor dragon really want to see those 3 perverted sons of Chicky? He could only hope that they wouldn't get overly agitated after seeing those 3. Chapter 822, I can relate to your pain. Chapter 822, I can relate to your pain. You really want to take a look? Lin Fan reminded out of goodwill so that the other party could be mentally prepared. After all, the 3 perverted sons of Chicky were pretty FCKED up. She had better not get scared into losing her mind or something if she were not mentally prepared for it. This was specially mentioned out loud for the god of the dragon ancestor. When he first saw Chicky, he was already not taking too much of a liking to his appearance. If he were to see those 3 perverted sons, wouldn't he just spit out a mouthful of old blood? It's my 3 grandsons, why can't I take a look at them? Zifeng, on the other hand, did not think that much. All she wanted to do was to see her grandchildren. Dearest mummy, these 3 sons of mine are one better than the other. This is my proudest achievement in my entire life to have these 3 sons of mine. Chicky said in pride. Naturally, how can the descendants of my son be any bit poor? If our old ancestors were to find out about this, they'd be overwhelmed with joy. Zifeng replied happily. Looking at how this family had already been mentally prepared, Lin Fan did not say anything more. Since they wanted to take a look, then they might as well take a good and fine look. Lin Fan let out Chicky's 3 sons straight from his paradise. Instantly, a bright flash of light appeared. The moment Zifeng saw this, she could not help but sit upright a little. She wanted to take a clearer than ever look. The curiosity of the god of the dragon ancestor was piqued as well. He wanted to see what sort of geniuses these 3 grandsons of his might be like. Kukkaku. Before their figures had even presented themselves, their voices came through first. But, the moment the voices appeared, the heart of the god of the dragon ancestor froze up a little. He had a bad feeling about this. However, Zifeng's expression was only anxious with anticipation. All of a sudden, a bright golden light blinded the eyes of everyone present. A bedazzling golden chicken stood there haughtily. Tossing his head around, it was as though every single living being in this world above and beneath the heavens must bow down to him in subservience. That rich, jewel-like aura of his coupled with those shining golden shades. This was the baller chicken that had appeared. Dearest mummy, this is my son, Chicken Big. Doesn't he just look like a talent through and through? Chicky presented with satisfaction. Chicky was extremely pleased with these 3 sons of his. All of them had inherited his good genes. Good, extraordinary disposition. This is undoubtedly my good grandson. Come and give your grandma a hug. At this moment, Zifeng was smiling so widely she couldn't even close her lips. Chicken Big, this is the dearest mummy of your daddy here. So, she's your grandma. Hurry up and go give her a hug. Chicky ordered. Chicken Big rubbed those golden necklaces on his neck before strutting forth while twerking his butt. He crowed out a few times and rubbed against those legs of Zifeng. At this moment, the eyes of the god of the dragon ancestor were instantly dilated. It was as though his heart had just been hammered immensely. A dazzling myriad of colors shone through the world as the world was now infected with that wild chicken hairstyle. The non-mainstream chicken too tossed those fabulous long hair of his around and crowed out slowly. He then did a catwalk as though this was a fashion show. Dearest mummy, this is Chicken too. He stands out from the rest with his rainbow shades. Chicky presented proudly once more. These 3 sons of his were one more outstanding than the other. At times, Chicky would even lament to himself with pride. With superior genes such as his, the type of descendants that would be produced were honestly just heaven-defying. Chicken too, this is your grandma here. This is grandpa, hurry up and go give your grandfather a hug. Chicky commanded. Chicken too tossed his head around as that hipster hair of his covered one eye of his. He then strutted over to the god of the dragon ancestor through his catwalk. Grandpa, this single voice had the inner heart of the god of the dragon ancestor shattering instantly. Creak, he was playing with a dragon's pearl in his hands that suddenly cracked at this moment. For the god of the dragon ancestor, this was a blow that was way too big right now. My son, look at how excited your father is by looking at his grandsons. That dragon pearl was your father's favorite treasure. The moment Zifeng saw this, she chuckled out. Lin Fan held up his head with a single palm. He could relate to the pain in the heart of the god of the dragon ancestor right now. If he had grandsons as such, he might even just take up a saber and chop them up before throwing them into the smelt for a makeover. Boom! The moment Chicken Fat took a single step out, the entire ground trembled. Each time he appeared, there would be a piece of meat hanging from his beak. On Chicken Fat's neck was a storage ring. This storage ring contained nothing else except pieces of meat. Dearest mummy, this is Chicken Fat here, the 3rd child of your dear child. But, it's just that he's a little too good at eating. Hence, he's slightly plump. Chicky said. Looking at that rotund shape of Chicken Fat, Zifeng pursed her lips and smiled. Good, it's a good thing that one's able to eat well. He looks better with some meat on him as well. Huang Wusheng, you lucky man. These 3 grandsons resemble you so much. Zifeng said. The moment he caught sight of his 3 grandsons, the face of the god of the dragon ancestor was extremely pale. He had led an impeccable life, with a remarkable name for himself. And now, he felt that there was a high probability that his reputation would be ruined in the hands of these 3 grandsons. When he heard the last sentence Zifeng said, the god of the dragon ancestor's face was entirely flushed red. He spat out a mouthful of old blood. "Dearest mummy, what's wrong with daddy?" Chicky asked. "Your daddy is just happy right now. This is especially the case after he saw his grandsons. Now that he has a successor, he does not have to worry over the colossal dragon race any longer." Zifeng said. "Oh," Chicky nodded his head in acknowledgement. The god of the dragon ancestor felt as though he must have sinned gravely in his past life for him to have 3 perverted grandsons like these. Lin Fan looked over at the god of the dragon ancestor and cast him a consoling gaze. While others might not understand the pain of the god of the dragon ancestor, Lin Fan understood. The god of the dragon ancestor had an unparalleled potential, and was the leader of the colossal dragon's race. But now, he suddenly had a son popping out of nowhere. If his son didn't look like him, so be it. But, what in the world was up with these 3 grandsons right now? One bloody baller who was just wearing gold and silver all over. One non-mainstream hipster with all sorts of colors. One that was as fat as a mountain, with meat hanging off his beak. Each one of them was so damned perverted. If the outside world were to catch wind of this, he would definitely end up as the laughingstock for everyone. The heart of the god of the dragon ancestor was going through an immense roller coaster right now. Even if his cultivation state were beyond the heavens, this was a moment he could barely endure any longer. Swipe, swipe. N-O-V-E in .c ohm. At this moment, the god of the dragon ancestor realized that there was a single head that was swiping left and right around at the bottom of his pants. When he looked down, he spat out a mouthful of blood once more. Chicken Fat had swallowed that piece of meat at his beak. His beak was then covered with oil stains, which he wiped directly at the bottom of the god of the dragon ancestor's pants. This saved him a lot of trouble. When the both of them exchanged glances, that innocent-looking Chicken Fat opened his eyes widely. As though he could hardly take in all that love from his grandpa's endearing gaze, Chicken Fat stuffed his head right up the pants of his grandpa coquettishly. He was so bashful right now. At this moment, god of the dragon ancestor leaned onto a pillar. His face held an expression that no longer bore any hope for life. "What type of sins has your god here ever committed?" The god of the dragon ancestor had an urge to slap all of these grandsons to death. However, he did not dare to do it, nor could he bear to. That was because he could truly sense that the bloodlines of these 3 grandsons were extremely similar to his. They all came from the same source. However, there was something that bugged the god of the dragon ancestor. The bloodlines of his 3 grandsons seemed a little mixed up. "My son, why is my daughter-in-law not around?" At this moment, Zifeng asked. When Chicky heard this, it was as though he had suddenly recalled something as his mind pondered. He then replied sadly, "Dearest mummy, she's dead." Chapter 823, Time to carry on then. Chapter 823, Time to carry on then. The thing that Lin Fan was most afraid of was that Chicky might foolishly tell how these 3 perverted sons of his came about. If they were to know that these 3 perverted sons were the offspring of a domestic fowl, he wondered what sort of expression they would have. In Lin Fan's opinion, they might probably just explode. "How did she die?" Zifeng asked. "Difficulties when giving birth," Chicky replied. The fact that a single domestic fowl could successfully give birth to 3 perverts like these was something that Lin Fan couldn't make sense of for the longest time. In theory, the amount of spirit chi that's required in the process of bearing them was already enough to suck up the domestic fowl cleanly. To think that she could hold out till such an extent. But, what Lin Fan did not know was that back when the hen was bearing these 3 little perverts, Zhang Ergo and the others had been worked to the bone. A countless and endless amount of elixirs were fed to this domestic fowl dedicatedly. If any outsiders were to catch wind of it, they would definitely spit out a mouthful of old blood. That was way too wasteful. "Highs, my son, you don't have to be too sad. I wonder what race she was from. If there's a chance, I'll go visit them with your daddy." Zifeng consoled. Chicky blinked his eye blankly and thought for a moment. He then replied, "I think it's the hen race." Hen race. What sort of a race is that? Both the god of the dragon ancestor and Zifeng were stunned. They hadn't heard of that race before. Lin Fan was equally taken aback. "Hen your mother." That bloody hen race was none other than the, once you grow up you're thrown into a hot pot to be eaten, race. This hen race is a race that belongs to the Xuanwang world. While it might not be comparable to the top 10 old ancient beast races, it has some capabilities as well. At the breaking of dawn, the hen would cry out loudly to bring forth the coming of life for the living beings of the world. For the living beings of the Xuanwang world, the importance of the hen is supreme, and the value of their deeds is tantamount to the heavens. Lin Fan forcefully explained his way out of this. While the god of the dragon ancestor and Zifeng did not know what in the world this hen race was, when they heard of the noble way in which Lin Fan had described it to be, they nodded their heads in agreement as well. While there was definitely some distance away from being comparable to the top 10 old ancient beasts, it wasn't all that bad either. At this moment, Lin Fan did not want to continue this farce with the god of the dragon ancestor. He then indicated over to Chicky. Chicky thoroughly understood Lin Fan's meaning down to his core. He then said out in a bashful manner, "Dearest mummy, I'm hungry." Yes, your dearest mummy will bring you there right away. The moment the god of the dragon ancestor heard this, he was put in quite the spot for a moment. That was his own treasure stash. He was a little reluctant to let anyone in just like that. But, under the strong pressure of Zifeng, he did not dare to disobey and could only agree silently as well. Initially, Lin Fan did not have the rights to enter. But, with the help of Chicky and his 3 little chicklings, he had still managed to get in successfully. Even if the god of the dragon ancestor had 1,000 emotions of unwillingness, he had no choice in this matter at this moment. When Lin Fan caught sight of the stone gates before him, he felt excited from up to down. This was the treasure stash of the god of the dragon ancestor. Who knew how many treasures there would be inside? Open up. Zifeng glared straight at the god of the dragon ancestor. The god of the dragon ancestor felt a slight pain of reluctance in his heart. But, under the pressure of his woman, he could only sigh and open up the doors of the treasure stash. Boom! The treasure stash opened up as a thick treasure aura gushed out from the gaps. Sensing the thick treasure aura from within, Lin Fan could not help but acknowledge in his heart. Just this bit of treasure aura that was coming forth, and the type of might that was brought forth with it, was enough for him to tell just how many treasures were within. The colossal dragon race could be considered as one of the richest races there were. Take anything you'd like, don't stand on courtesy at all, Zifeng said. Lin Fan did not know how to reply, and could only nod his head silently. As for Chicky and those 3 chicklings of his, they did not hesitate at all as they bolted right inside the treasure stash. Lin Fan followed closely behind. Zifeng, this is not too good, right? To let a human into the treasure stash. If this were to. At this moment, when only the 2 of them were left outside in the world, the god of the dragon ancestor asked. Why not? You can't bear to, Zifeng retorted. That's not what I mean. I just feel that it's not really a good idea to let a human into our treasure stash. The god of the dragon ancestor could feel his heart bleeding. These were treasures that he had accumulated tirelessly over endless years. If this human were to swipe the entire treasure stash clean, what should he do? What's not too good about it? Can't you tell that our child has an extremely close relationship with this human? And also, what's the use of you keeping so many treasures? Unless you're thinking that you can find someone else with it after I'm dead. Zifeng, what are you saying? How could I, Huang Wusheng, be someone like that? HMPH. A single look and I can tell that you're dishonest. Isn't your fortune going to be left for our child in the future as well? And now, for anything our child wishes to give away, you had better not give me that crap. Once this heavenly calamity is over this time around, you're to step down from your position. NOVEL-B in .C Ohm. Alright. Holy FCK. This is Mother Sea King even richer than an entire world of its own. When Lin Fan entered the treasure stash, he was bedazzled by the sight before him. Within the void, there were dense clusters of treasures floating all around. Dao weapons. They were all Dao weapons. And some of those Dao weapons did not have a master at all. One by one, weapon spirits were flying all around the treasure stash and having fun playing around. In fact, even those pills that had been kept here had given birth to pill spirits of their own. Lin Fan looked around hurriedly to catch sight of Chicky. By the time he found him, Chicky had already leapt into a pile of pills and was gulping down with his life. This is really rich indeed. Chicky's life is way too good right now. Lin Fan lamented. Based on the treasure stash's resources here, even 10,000 sects wouldn't be able to compare to it. Lin Fan had been searching for Shengyang pills all this while. Hence, none of these treasures and pills were things that Lin Fan could be enticed over. As long as he had sufficient materials, he could craft these out as well. At this moment, Lin Fan came to a halt with his footsteps. All he saw up ahead of him was a dragon that was made up of some unknown materials. It spiraled and coiled all the way up into the heavens. The moment that dragon opened its gigantic mouth, countless Shenyang pills spilled out of its mouth. This. When Lin Fan saw this, he was completely stumped. In a single breath, the amount of Shenyang pills that were spat out were innumerable. It was absolutely heaven-revolting. Shenyang Pill River. This was the true Shenyang Pill River. One after another, the gigantic Shenyang Pill dragons swiveled up into the skies. Each dragon was made up of 100 billion Shenyang pills. At this moment, Lin Fan wanted to reap everything in just like that so badly. But, the moment he considered the fact that he was in the territory of someone else, he realized how unreasonable it would be if he were to just swipe everything clean. Sweeping his robes, Lin Fan took 10 Shenyang Pill dragons into his paradise. That made 1 trillion for him now. Lin Fan did not know what the limits of the god of the dragon ancestor's tolerance were. Hence, he decided to take it little by little to test his attitude towards it. Outside, to think that the lad would take away 1 trillion Shenyang pills directly. The god of the dragon ancestor had been keeping a close watch on what was going on within. However, he realized that this human wanted nothing but Shenyang pills. Even though Shenyang pills weren't something that were all too precious for the colossal dragon race, 1 trillion was still something outrageous. You're heartbroken over just 1 trillion? Are you still the god of the dragon ancestor? Zifeng said. That's 1 trillion, even if I have the great formation of dragon gods, they will take 1,000 years to produce this much. The god of the dragon ancestor cried out in pain. That lad's moving out again. Yet another 1 trillion. No, I've got to stop this. Noticing that the other party had taken in yet another trillion, the god of the dragon ancestor was instantly panicked. The god of the dragon ancestor was distraught right now. In a short period of time, 2 trillion Shenyang pills were gone just like that. At this moment, Lin Fan's guts were indeed getting bolder. When he had taken the first 2 trillion, his heart had skipped a small beat. He felt that he might have taken too many. But, when he realized that the god of the dragon ancestor did not give off any dissent, Lin Fan's guts only grew bigger. There's still so much more. Lin Fan checked out the rest of the Shenyang pills in the treasure stash. Suddenly, he realized that the 2 trillion that he had taken were but a drop of the ocean, neither enough to cause an itch nor pain. Since that was the case, time to carry on then. Chapter 824, 10 trillion obtained. Chapter 824, 10 trillion obtained. This looks like a formation meant to cultivate out Shenyang pills continuously and endlessly. Even the mythical parasol tree can't compare to this. Within a single breath, the amount of Shenyang pills produced can practically fill up an ocean. By now, Lin Fan had already reaped in 2 trillion Shenyang pills. If he could swipe this entire treasure stash clean, there was definitely enough to make up 10 trillion. But the thing was, if he were to swipe everything away, he might have to end up facing the wrath of the god of the dragon ancestor. While Lin Fan could be considered as someone thick-skinned, he couldn't possibly swipe the Shenyang pills of this entire treasure stash clean. That would be a little overboard. Lin Fan flew up into the void and opened up his palms to touch that colossal dragon that was opening its gigantic mouth. Ding! Heavenly dragon formation. The presence of the essence spirit of every single generation of god of the dragon ancestor of the colossal dragon race. Swallows and spits out saint spirit chi into Shenyang pills. Goodness, what a miserable life the previous generations of the god of the dragon ancestor lead. To think that they can't even rest after their deaths, and would have to spit out Shenyang pills day and night. Lin Fan pursed his lips while saying. At the same time, Lin Fan felt a little disappointed. Initially, he had thought that he would be able to create a heavenly dragon formation within his paradise as well. But, it seemed impossible right now. Where in the world was he to find the essence spirits of the gods of the dragon ancestor? If he were to move this out, the entire colossal dragon race might come at his life. Forget it, time for my hand to roam and touch around more. But, this hand of Lin Fan was far from being messed with. Just like that, another trillion Shenyang pills were kept into his paradise. He then stopped and waited patiently. If the other party were unhappy about it, he would definitely cough out. Lin Fan would then be a tactful man and leave. That should mean that all would be fine. Outside, take a look. That greedy human had taken yet another trillion. That makes 3 trillion Shenyang pills. The god of the dragon ancestor complained in pain. That was 3 trillion. For the colossal dragon race, that was a fortune tantamount to the heavens. N-O-V-E in .c ohm. While the colossal dragon race might be extremely rich and strong, that was because they had accumulated their fortune and wealth over countless of generations. What are you heartbroken about? Do you think that our son and those 3 grandsons aren't worth 3 trillion? Zifeng asked. And no, wifey, it's just that human is way too greedy. If I don't give it a stop, he's going to swipe our entire stash of Shenyang pills clean. While the cultivation state of the god of the dragon ancestor was heaven-defying, now that he had this many Shenyang pills swiped away, his heart was aching badly. Even though Chicky was his son, there ought to be a buffer period for him to start building any sort of relationship with him. So what if he swipes it clean? Does our colossal dragon race have such a small magnanimity in our hearts? He had painstakingly brought up our child and grandchildren. Let alone 3 trillion, if he wants to take everything, I'm willing to give it all. Zifeng replied. When the god of the dragon ancestor looked at his own wife, he did not know what to say for a moment or so. This was all his wife's personal opinion. If he were to be swiped clean, how were they going to lead their lives from now on forth? However, in order to pacify his wife, the god of the dragon ancestor could only keep those words down his throat. But, those eyes of his were still glaring fixedly at Lin Fan. It was as though if Lin Fan would take any more, he would have it out with this guy. That's strange. To think that he hasn't stepped in just yet. Seems like he agrees to me taking a bit more then. Lin Fan's heart froze for a little, thinking that the colossal dragon race was way too generous. Had he known that the colossal dragon race would be this generous, he wouldn't have fought with them from the very beginning. He would have even tried his best at maintaining a good relationship with them. Lin Fan looked down at that ocean worth of Shenyang pills. Just that look alone and he could tell that there were still several trillion left. Right now, he was only around 5.4 trillion Shenyang pills short of his 10 trillion Shenyang pills. If he were to shamelessly take that all at one go, he wondered if anything would happen. Old bro, what are you doing? Why are you not taking anything? At this moment, Chicky flew over while skipping up and down. Lin Fan exchanged a glance with Chicky. Everything that needed to be communicated through was exchanged through their gazes. Both of them stayed that way, just silently looking into one another's eyes. Lin Fan then nodded his head, and Chicky did the same. Old bro, don't worry about it. This is my home here. I've already found my parents. What belongs to them belongs to me as well. Since you love Shenyang pills, old bro, then take more of them please. At this moment, Chicky spread out his wings and flapped, causing a tornado to appear. Dozens of Shenyang pill dragons were suddenly sucked in by this strong force and entered Lin Fan's paradise. Old bro, this is my gift to you. Let us head out. Chicky did not wait for Lin Fan to reply as he darted for the exit straightaway. When the god of the dragon ancestor outside caught sight of this, he nearly spat out a mouthful of old blood. This wastrel. Aye. The god of the dragon ancestor was shivering uncontrollably as though he was unable to take this loss. What? This is the first time our son is giving a gift to someone. Are you telling me you're not going to be supporting him? Zifeng threw a stern glare at the god of the dragon ancestor and said with a tone of displeasure. Wifey, we can't indulge him as such. While our family may be pretty wealthy, we can't afford to give away everything to others like this. No, I've got to step forth and hold this back. That's a full 25% of our entire Shenyang pills stash. The god of the dragon ancestor said with an anguished heart. Alright, go on. Sure, go ahead. The moment you go, I'll take my son with me and leave this place back to my mother's home. Since your colossal dragon race can't afford the gift, our phoenix race will afford it then. Zifeng replied coldly. When the god of the dragon ancestor caught the expression of his wife, he knew that she wasn't joking about it at all. Eventually, he relented with a sad sigh. This was one hell of a loss acknowledging this son, wasn't it? At this moment, Lin Fan was beyond exhilarated. He had truly gotten 10 trillion Shenyang pills. Even the utmost beings of the ancient race couldn't compete with the wealth of the colossal dragon race. But on second thoughts, this should be the case as well. After all, the colossal dragon race had accumulated this over many generations. This wasn't something that the utmost beings could compare with. When they arrived at the entrance, there was a bright light screen that covered Lin Fan and Chicky within it. The next time they reappeared, Lin Fan could already see that pained expression of the god of the dragon ancestor. Many thanks, many thanks. Since he had taken so many things, it was only natural for Lin Fan to express his gratitude. Rumors have it that the heart of the god of the dragon ancestor is extremely magnanimous. Seems like you really live up to the rumors. I think I've taken a little too many Shenyang pills, so I should probably give it back. Sure. The moment the god of the dragon ancestor heard these words, his heart leapt with joy. He could not wait for Lin Fan to return these immediately. No, it's all right. This is a gift for you from the colossal dragon race. Please keep it. Zifeng smiled out. Her tone then suddenly changed as she asked her husband in a tone full of implications, "Hubby, what do you think?" Ah, the god of the dragon ancestor looked at his own wife, and then at Lin Fan. Eventually, he shut his eyes gently and nodded his head solemnly, "That's right. This is a gift for you from the colossal dragon race." The moment these words came out, the god of the dragon ancestor could even feel his inner heart being stabbed through. That bitter, sour feeling. Oh, how lovely that felt. To think that in less than 2 hours, he would lose multiple trillions of Shenyang pills, and gain a son and 3 grandsons. Who in the world could actually compare with him for something like this? Many thanks, many thanks. At this moment, Lin Fan was overwhelmed with joy in his heart. This was a fortune that had dropped down from the skies. However, Lin Fan was already prepared to reap in quite a fortune when he had first brought Chicky here to seek his kin. And indeed, it hadn't gone out of his expectations. The reaping was good and well. Only, he did not know how things would be like if he brought Chicky over to the Phoenix race. That was something he was looking forward to now. Chapter 825, Mastermind Behind the Scenes. Chapter 825, Mastermind Behind the Scenes. After that, Chicky and his 3 perverted sons followed Zifeng and the god of the dragon ancestor and left. In this meeting of 3 generations, they naturally had many things to say to one another. As for Lin Fan, he was extremely idle right now. Initially, he wanted Dragon Empress Shen Wu to take him around the place casually. However, Dragon Empress Shen Wu now had a phobia of Lin Fan after the whacking. The moment she caught sight of him, she would flee away as though she had just seen a ghost. There was no way to even hold her back. Highs, since when in the world did I become someone so scary now? To think that a fine chick like that would be destroyed by my toying around. What a pity, truly, what a pity. Lin Fan lamented before casually walking around the base of the colossal dragon race. This base of the colossal dragon race looked pretty primitive on the outside, and was in no way luxurious. However, the insides were so bloody glamorous that it was a little shocking. Looking at all the members of the colossal dragon race who were walking by one after another, Lin Fan had a bad urge to want to rob them for a good round. At this moment, Lin Fan felt that he had just done a really bad thing. He should not have brought Chicky back to seek his kin. Instead, he should have just robbed the entire colossal dragon race one big round. When he incurred their deathly rage, he would have brought Chicky back to acknowledge them. By then, everything would be settled well and dandy. But, it was all too late for him to continue on that plan now. Other than the colossal dragon race and the phoenix race, there were still 8 other top 10 old ancient beast races. He could seize this opportunity to go explore them out one after another and accumulate more Shenyang pills. By then, he could raise the Xuanwang world to a pinnacle form in one fell swoop. How awesome would that be? The more Lin Fan thought about it, the more plausible it seemed. Everything would fall into place later on. He would wait till Chicky was done with his family reunion, then bring him along to go for the robberies. However, at this moment, Lin Fan felt that it was about time for him to head back and check out what the Xuanwang world was like. With 10 trillion Shenyang pills in his hands, he now had 2 miraculous usages to try out. The first was 100 years in a single thought. He could open up that huge chi to allow the entire strength of the Xuanwang world to speedily increase. The other was precious treasure descends from the heavens. That was to allow the Xuanwang world to obtain more secret grounds or treasures, so that more people could obtain and seek them out. However, given the current situation, 100 years in a single thought was the most important one. Having their strength increasing rapidly would give them greater confidence in facing the upcoming danger. Who in the world would know when the infinite worlds would open up? And in any case, Lin Fan knew that the opening up of the infinite worlds would be no good thing at all as well. November LBJNN. He did not bank on being able to save everyone. But at the very least, Lin Fan wanted to ensure that the Xuanwang world would be safe. Within the house, Lin Fan checked out the situation of the Xuanwang world. Everything had been progressing according to Lin Fan's beautiful plan. Under the arrangement of the Glory sect, all of the major sects and even some minor sects have begun to converge, and were forming an alliance. Because of the special body type of Wang Xiaoming, he had attracted the vengeance of countless destined children. For Wang Xiaoming, this was a period of time where both happiness and pain coexisted. Some of the destined children were toyed over back and forth by Wang Xiaoming, while on the other hand, some of them did the same to him. However, each time, Wang Xiaoming was always the one to get some benefits out of it. A life as such was something that brought forth immense pleasure for Wang Xiaoming. However, there was one single question that was nagging Lin Fan's mind. He wondered what would happen when all the destined children finally reached their pinnacle states. Would Wang Xiaoming turn into a great villain by then and be killed by the masses? Ah, Xiaoming, Xiaoming. You can truly be considered as a great benefactor of the Xuanwang world from this day forth as well. Lin Fan lamented in his heart. However, with him around, even if anyone wanted Wang Xiaoming dead, they would have to be able to kill him under the watch of Lin Fan first. 100 years in a single thought meant that time would rapidly flow in the Xuanwang world in the blink of an eye. However, in order to not have everyone worry, Lin Fan headed over to let them know. This was especially the case for Zhan Yongxian. If he were to disappear for 100 years just like that, wouldn't she just go mad? While it was nothing but the single blink of an eye for Lin Fan, it was a true solid 100 years for the inhabitants of the Xuanwang world. Highs, if only I could survive on just cultivating to raise my cultivation state as well. How nice would that be? Lin Fan was starting to feel a tinge of envy towards this 100 years in a single thought. However, for his cultivation state to level up, he had to depend on experience points. Without experience points, even if he were to sit there for a whole 100 years, it wouldn't mean jack's tea. Now that Zhang Henshin was in control of the Glory sect, Lin Fan had him go out and recruit some disciples. These people were none other than the people that Wang Xiaoming had FCKED over. After all of these were destined children. Lin Fan had checked it out with the Heavens Will of Xuanwang world as well. It was only then that he found out that the destined children had to be created in order for the Heavens Will of the Xuanwang world to continue strengthening. That would push the progress of the entire Xuanwang world. Once everything was handed over, Lin Fan raised his finger gently, and countless Shenyang Pills dragons coiled around Lin Fan's body. 100 years in a single thought. Instantly, the void rippled as the boundless Shenyang Pills dragons rumbled out and gushed into the Xuanwang world. This tremendous amount of energy was nearly enough to bloat the Xuanwang world into exploding. All of a sudden, a bright, immense light shone out. Because of the system's existence, it caused the Shenyang Pills dragons to be completely digested and converted into energy, pushing the movement of time. Blink, blink, blink. At this moment, Lin Fan realized that something had changed. A long river of time floated out before him. In this river of time, there were countless of threads connected to it. Every single thread was entrusted onto a single living being. These were the threads of fate of the living beings in the Xuanwang world. But at this moment, from behind the scenes, Lin Fan gave it a hard push. With that, the fates of countless of people began to change. Within that river of time, there were 10,000 threads that were connected onto the body of Wang Xiaoming. Lin Fan gave it a flick with curiosity as he checked it out. Zhang Hao, righteous disciple, he shall have a cultivation state of lesser celestial middle level in this lifetime. Lifespan of 103 years. Death by unnatural causes. This was his original fate. But as time passed, these words began to disappear and change. Replacing them was another fate. Zhang Hao, righteous disciple, because he met Wang Xiaoming, his fate changed. He shall have a cultivation state of divine celestial level 10 cultivation state. Lifespan of eternity. To think that because of his interference, the fates of these many people in the Xuanwang world would change. However, there was something that had Lin Fan feeling awkward. This was going to be one hell of a bad luck for Wang Xiaoming. Initially, there weren't too many threads of fate that were linked with Wang Xiaoming's body. To think that after 100 years, there would be 10,000 of them. Didn't this mean that Wang Xiaoming must have mocked countless destined children in the 100 years? The moment he thought of the miserable life Wang Xiaoming would have to lead from now on, Lin Fan felt chills running down his spine. Ding, 100 years in a single thought over. Ding, 100 years in a single thought function removed. Holy FCK, why is it removed? Initially, Lin Fan was overwhelmed with joy thinking that he had just done something incredibly huge. But all of a sudden, when he heard the notification of the system, he was totally stumped. Wasn't this leaving him with no way out at all? With 100 years in a single thought removed, how was he supposed to give the inhabitants of Xuanwang world any further cheats in the future? Scam, FCKED up scam. Lin Fan had never expected this 100 years in a single thought to be a one-time use function. The system itself didn't even mention it at all. This, helplessness, this was the only feeling running through Lin Fan's mind right now. An immense helplessness. Chapter 826, The Devil's Incarnate, Wang Xiaoming. Chapter 826, The Devil's Incarnate, Wang Xiaoming. Since 100 years in a single thought was a one-use function, precious treasure descended from the heavens should naturally be the same as well. This was one hell of a huge scam. Since the system already made it as such, what else could Lin Fan do? Naturally, he could only accept it. However, Lin Fan was a little curious towards the changes in the Xuanwang world. He wondered what sort of changes would have happened in these 100 years. When Lin Fan entered the Xuanwang world, he took in a gentle breath. He realized that the spirit qi in the Xuanwang world was way thicker than 100 years ago. This was at least 2 to 3 times more. Casting his entire sense across, Lin Fan could feel that there were countless powerful beings all over the Xuanwang world now. In the blink of an eye, he arrived at Glory Sect. Right now, Glory Sect was a consolidation of everything. The countless of other sects had expanded out over thousands and thousands of miles in a radius, forming an extremely huge city. All of the major sects of Xuanwang world had merged together with Glory Sect, forming an extremely influential force. As for some of the sects who did not wish to join in, Lin Fan did not harp on it. All the destined children who had been mocked by Wang Xiaoming had now been recruited by Glory Sect, and were now disciples under it. There was no huge disturbance over Lin Fan's return to Glory Sect. He had only gathered the people close to him. Master, in the span of 100 years, those two brats, Zhichao and Juling, had long become slender and elegant women. Even though throughout that single thought of Lin Fan, he had sent his consciousness over from time to time, it was still pretty much a blink of an eye's time for him as well. Fast, how fast time had passed. These two brats had an unparalleled innate potential. In just 100 years that they had spent as per usual, their cultivation states were now divine celestial level 7, all to one state. Lin Fan looked at the both of them. They did not leave one another's side no matter where they went. The fact that these two brats were now together forever was something that had Lin Fan feeling a little helpless. However, he was the one who had helped them get together. Even if he was regretting it now, it was useless. Not bad, not bad. Lin Fan still nodded his head in satisfaction nevertheless. Hee. Both Zhichao and Juling sniggered. They then headed to the side and started gossiping about something fresh. These were all girly affairs that a brutish man such as Lin Fan wouldn't be able to understand at all. Zhang Ergo, Tian Yu, and Zhang Henshan all arrived as well. This time around, Lin Fan truly understood what it meant that even though places might remain the same, people would change. But when Lin Fan caught sight of the cultivation state of Mie Changqi, he nearly spat out a mouthful of old blood. This mother CKER couldn't have kept himself cultivating in seclusion for the past 100 years, right? Divine Celestial Level 9, 8 Desolates United State. Changqi, don't tell me you've kept yourself cultivating for the entire past 100 years. Lin Fan asked. That's right, Master, you told me that you were about to speed up the time within the Xuanwang world. Therefore, I thought that everyone would naturally be heading into seclusion. There was no way I alone wouldn't do that as well. Therefore, I've locked myself in the secret chamber all the way till now. Mie Changqi replied. The moment Lin Fan heard this, he truly did not know what to say anymore. This mother CKER was really a different sort of crazy. But this was good as well. The fact that the entire strength of the Xuanwang world could be raised as a whole was something that Lin Fan had wanted to see the most. However, given their strength back then, no matter how overwhelming their innate potentials were, it would have all been useless. Time would wait for no one. By the time the infinite worlds opened up, given their cultivation states, they wouldn't have even made cannon fodder. Hubby. At this moment, Zhan Yongxian walked over briskly. In the past 100 years, the one whom Lin Fan had sent his consciousness to the most was Zhan Yongxian. Therefore, he did not notice anything really different about her. However, Zhan Yongxian's cultivation state was already Divine Celestial Level 8, Universal Elixir state right now. Lin Fan knew that the reason that people around him could have their cultivation states rising so rapidly was one that had an inseparable connection with himself. As for those people who did not have much of a relationship with him, even after 100 years, their cultivation states were probably Divine Celestial Level 3 or 4 at best. In fact, for those mere humans who did not even have a decent innate potential, they could only turn into dust and disappear along with the world when their lifespans were up. Matriarch, Matriarch, everyone greeted politely. Yongxian, the reason why I sped up time in the Xuanwang world for 100 years was for us to be able to handle the upcoming calamity which is about to happen. Now that everyone's cultivation states are raised, even if we head up to the ancient saint world, everyone will be able to defend for themselves. Lin Fan said. Boom. At this moment, a series of loud explosions boomed out. What's going on? Lin Fan looked over into the distance and noticed that many disciples were gathered up, as though they were heading out on an expedition. Junior Master Lin, these disciples are the people whom you wanted me to recruit back then. Now that they have cultivated something for themselves and are all divine celestial level 6 and 7 powerful beings, they want to head out and face the devils incarnate, Wang Xiaoming, so that they can rid the Xuanwang world of evil. Zhang Henshin did not know who in the world Wang Xiaoming was, nor the relationship between Lin Fan and Wang Xiaoming. However, the name of Wang Xiaoming was a nefarious one that no one in the entire Xuanwang world did not know of. There were traces of Wang Xiaoming left behind in every single part of the Xuanwang world. At the same time, there was something that shocked everyone. It seemed that in one way or another, all the geniuses of the Xuanwang world held some type of grudges against Wang Xiaoming. And not only that, those were practically blood feuds they had that were tantamount to the heavens. The moment some of the baddies of the Xuanwang world heard of the great name of Wang Xiaoming, they all bowed down to him willingly to be his underlings. As such, the great devil's incarnate cult was born. They roused a bloody war over the entire Xuanwang world. Each time Wang Xiaoming stepped out, countless geniuses would be met with misfortune. Oh, is this the first group siege against him? Lin Fan asked. No, it isn't, and no one knows the background from which Wang Xiaoming hails. He came to rise all of a sudden 80 years ago and set up the devil's incarnate cult. While he didn't anything way too harming to the natural order of the world, Wang Xiaoming specializes in oppressing others and stealing their valuables. This is the 138th siege they're holding out against him right now. Zhang Henshin explained. And how did the previous sieges go? Lin Fan asked curiously. There were losses on both sides. This was especially the case for the genius disciples. Each time they headed for a siege, they would lose countless valuables. And some of them would even be bullied and taunted to the brink of insanity. If not for the fact that we have been cleaning up the mess from behind the scenes, the situation would be even worse right now. However, that Wang Xiaoming is really one cunning fella. There was once when I headed up with Brother Ergo and the others to help as well. However, he managed to escape each time. Gradually, Wang Xiaoming also managed to accumulate some power to him. There is truly nothing one can do about him anymore. If not for the fact that you're back, Junior Master Lin, Mie Changqi might be the only one who could deal with him by then. Zhang Henshin was extremely curious towards Wang Xiaoming as well. When Lin Fan heard these, he could only sigh. It had really been tough on Wang Xiaoming. Back in the past, he was a hedonistic prince without a care for the world. And, he was forcefully groomed by Lin Fan into the greatest devil amongst all of the Xuanwang world's geniuses. Based on the way normal plots went, all the big villains would definitely die a horrible death eventually. Their powers would be sapped out, their meat devoured, their essence spirits trampled on, their universal elixirs crushed, etc. And those were not the worst just yet. The worst was probably when they had all their limbs crippled out and left to suffer a fate worse than death. Junior Master Lin, I believe that if you were to step forth personally, this devil's incarnate would definitely be uprooted. Zhang Henshin said. Actually, this is all. At this moment, Lin Fan could only sigh out helplessly and explain everything out. When everyone around heard Lin Fan tell the tale, they had their jaws dropped wide agape, full of disbelief. To think that at the end, Wang Xiaoming would be someone that was raised single-handedly by Lin Fan. This. Chapter 827, Totally Giving No Chances. Chapter 827, Totally Giving No Chances. To think that the cult master of the devil's incarnate cult would be a talent that was raised by Junior Master Lin single-handedly. That would explain how all of those geniuses couldn't do anything to him at all. Zhang Henshin gasped out. At the same time, he finally understood the situation. It was only a godly being such as Junior Master Lin who could groom a talent as such. Lin Fan coughed out gently, implying that he had always been so awesome to begin with. This matter here, please don't let the cat out of the bag. This would bring forth immense benefits for those genius disciples. When you guys are free and have nothing to do, please organize more sieges like these. Since matters had already escalated as such, it was naturally too late for Lin Fan to do anything about it. Therefore, he could only follow through with it and have it develop even more. However, Lin Fan was pretty curious about how Wang Xiaoming was doing right now. He wanted to know how this guy was always managing to scrape away from the hands of these guys. Outside, my fellow senior and junior brothers here, Wang Xiaoming is our common enemy. In the crusade this time around, we must succeed. We have to take down this vile being and return to Xuanwang world a bright tomorrow. A man stood on an elevated platform and raised both his arms with fervor. Senior brother Yu Jian is right. This was a man who had been going at it against Wang Xiaoming for a good 98 years now. In the second year when Wang Xiaoming had stepped out into the world, he met this man in some random city somewhere. He was then met with all sorts of ridicule and mockery. That brought Yu Jian to the brink of exploding. Under a fated affinity, he then came across an encounter, and from there on, his strength soared. Eventually, he was recruited as a disciple by Glory Sect. Within the sect, he met tons of fellow disciples who had faced a common situation. When he found out that all of them had a common enemy, which was Wang Xiaoming, their relationship bonded even more, such that they were practically like blood brothers. There was only a single thought in their heads: kill that man. From then on, they worked hard at cultivating. As long as there was an opportunity, or they heard news of Wang Xiaoming's location, they would gather up in groups and head forth to try and kill him. However, in the past 100 years, they had taken action for an entire 138 times, all ending up in failure. Despite that, they did not let that get them down. In fact, it only served to fuel their fighting spirits. Novel.B in .c ohm. This time around shall be the 139th time. We must definitely have Wang Xiaoming killed under our blades. However, we would be letting him off way too easily if he were to die that swiftly. We have to torture him immensely. Cruel torments. That damned Wang Xiaoming, he stripped me of my clothes and hung me up on the city walls. My hatred is nothing short of the heavens. He stole my skill and flirted with my partner. I swear that I won't be a human until I seek out this feud. He is the source of all evils. As long as I have him killed, I'll have no more regrets in my entire life. Let us set forth, brothers. This time around, Wang Xiaoming is in the base 100,000 miles away from here. We must definitely head there speedily and not allow him to escape. Alright, let's go. Instantly, a series of lights streaked out into the distance. These genius disciples had a cultivation state of divine celestial level 7, while some of them were at level 6. But, they were all basically within this range. For these genius disciples, being able to cultivate to a state as such within just 100 years was something that was extremely remarkable. Therefore, the other disciples around them naturally couldn't be any mere passers-by either. All of those around them had their potentials raised indefinitely, and had reached a pinnacle state. Because of that, their cultivation states were naturally able to follow through to completion as well. Within just 100 years, they had managed to reach an extremely high cultivation state. Highs, grand and majestic, this momentum moves forth like a dragon with an extraordinary impact indeed. Lin Fan looked over into the distance and could not help but lament out. He wondered how Wang Xiaoming had committed his sins such that he could attract so many genius disciples to head out in an exhilarating crusade against him. I'll go take a look. You guys just cultivate in the meantime. Lin Fan did not say anything more as he chased after the disciples. He had to see just how intense the fight between these disciples and Wang Xiaoming would get. In a cold and lonely patch of forest 100,000 miles away. This was a desolate and empty place occupied only by beasts. There were hardly any martial artists who would make their way here. Yet, in this place was a man whose existence was feared by the entire Xuanwang world. The devil's incarnate, Wang Xiaoming. Wang Xiaoming laid on a bed while being served by countless maids. This was practically paradise on earth. It had been 100 years now. He had lived through an entire 100 years of being hunted down. His life had been especially sour since the last 97 years. Well, Wang Xiaoming would admit to the fact that he did love to bully others. However, everyone that he had ever bullied ended up turning into the main members of those forces who were hunting him down. This was some sort of a messed up situation for Wang Xiaoming. In the past 100 years, he had been hunted down for a full 138 times, and had to change bases for 89 times. He had practically run an entire round around the Xuanwang world in hiding. Later on, for some unknown reason, there were some baddies who suddenly came knocking and bowing down to him in subservience. Because of that, his infamous name began to spread in the entire Xuanwang world. The devil's incarnate, Wang Xiaoming. Wang Xiaoming was absolutely unwilling to accept this title. However, he had no choice in it. Now that the outside world was already spreading it as such, what could he even do? As for the current Wang Xiaoming, he only had a single thought in his mind. He wanted to head home. But now that things had escalated to this point, he couldn't even return home. How tragic was this? Back in the past, there were a couple of times when Wang Xiaoming wanted to head home to take a look. However, each time he was halfway there, some fellas would sniff him out from out of nowhere and follow around him like ghouls. They would then try to kill him with all sorts of methods. Gee, great king, This is not good, not good. Just at this moment, a hurried voice swam over. It gave Wang Xiaoming quite the shock. What's wrong? What's wrong? Those people have come hunting over once more. This underling was once a starkly infamous baddie. However, because he was impressed with Wang Xiaoming's capabilities, he then bowed down in respect on his own accord. But after he started serving under Wang Xiaoming, something horrifying happened. They had to change houses practically once per year, and were hunted down by people daily. As for the thought of leaving Wang Xiaoming, he had entertained the idea before as well. However, there was a list amongst those of them hunting them down. The first to kill on the list was none other than Wang Xiaoming. However, their names were all close behind as well. It was as though these guys had the heaven's eyes locked onto them. No matter where they escaped to, they would always be found out. In the end, they could only continue to lead such miserable lives with their great king. What, again, didn't they conduct a siege just the previous year? Bloody hell, why are they back again? These damned fellas are really not giving me any peace at all. Your great king hasn't even gone out to annoy anyone recently. Wang Xiaoming was enraged. He was truly enraged this time around. Were these guys beasts? Didn't they know how to give someone room for a breather? Disregarding all the daily manhunts, they would conduct sieges like these at least once per year. How many people are here this time around? Wang Xiaoming asked. I don't know. There are too many of them in those dense clumps. The entire sky is practically filled with people. Those are nothing short of 10,000 for sure. What, so many? Did they really want my life this badly? Last year, there were only 8,000 of them, and now, it is already breaking the 10,000 figure. This. The moment Wang Xiaoming heard this, he was stumped. Wiggling his fingers to count, Wang Xiaoming realized that he had bullied quite a number of people in the past 2 to 3 years. Could it be that these people had obtained some sort of miraculous encounters for them to skyrocket in their cultivations? And now, they were already able to join in this crusade army to come hunt him down. Bloody hell, these guys were really bloody overboard. Hand down the orders, have every single unit be on alert, and pack their stuff to prepare for war or escape at a moment's notice. Wang Xiaoming yelled out, HMPH, even if we have to escape later on, I'll have to teach them a good lesson. Yes. Chapter 828, Ultimate Weapon. Chapter 828, Ultimate Weapon. Devils incarnate, Wang Xiaoming. Come out and receive death. Stop hiding inside there like a damned tortoise. Where did those guts you once had disappear to? Damned Wang Xiaoming, how dare you once deceive me to be my neighbor and steal my wife away? In fact, even that B***starred child of hers wasn't mine. How can I now seek revenge for this immense hatred of mine? All of the genius disciples out there were extremely infuriated as they recounted their bitter experiences. Looking at the dense cluster of people up in the skies, Lin Fan was at a loss of words for a moment or so. There were all sorts of vendettas here. Some of them were fighting over territories, some of them were bullied, some of them had their wives cheated on, while others were scammed out of something. For him to be able to do things to such an extent in a mere 100 years, even if Lin Fan didn't want to be impressed, he couldn't not be. His eternally hated body of the destined child was no joke indeed. The amount of bad luck that he had in attracting hatred was just incomparable. If any baddie were targeted by even one of these genius disciples, they would have to worry about it their entire lives. But now, they had it easy. Wang Xiaoming just taunted all of them directly. This was something that even a god couldn't stop. Lin Fan had been curious all this while. He wondered how this lad had managed to tide through everything. With so many geniuses, it was practically impossible to escape all of them unless he had some heaven-defying strength. And amongst these geniuses, the highest was a divine celestial level 8, universal elixir state being. Wang Xiaoming's cultivation state must be comparable as well. At this moment, a booming sound roared out. All of you, don't go overboard now. I, Wang Xiaoming, had long retreated into hiding in the forests, and had excluded myself from secular affairs. But, you guys have been coming to give your great king trouble here year after year. Don't you guys think that that's too much? Wang Xiaoming's boomed out from within the base. However, he did not show his face at all. Wang Xiaoming knew that if he had dared to show his face, all of these fellas would definitely rush up and rip it to shreds. Haha, devils incarnate, you seized the chance when we were all weak to bully us in all sorts of manner. And now that our cultivation states are heaven revolting and we're powerful, you choose to cower in fear. Do you think doing that can wash away all your sins of your past crimes? That's right, I've waited for this day for a long time now. 98 years ago, you humiliated me and crushed me under your feet harshly. You caused me to have no dignity left in front of the woman I loved. Back then, you should have considered an outcome as such. 70 years ago, you scammed me out of an utmost treasure, cutting off my path to eternity. But, the heavens did not give up on me, and allowed me to discover an even greater secret. Now that my cultivation is pretty accomplished, it's time for you to die. 60 years ago, my brother had only insulted you with a single sentence, and yet, you broke all 4 of his limbs and nearly killed my Zhao family. When I saw my father beg you for mercy before my very eyes, I, Zhao Wuji, swore at that moment that I'll eventually kill you with my bare hands one day. 58 years ago, on that night, you said that you will bring me to elope with you. Yet, you took the opportunity to steal my family heirloom. I'll never rest till I take revenge for this. 57 years ago, 56 years ago. Within this bunch of geniuses, there were both males and females. Each and every one of them hated Wang Xiaoming to the core, and could not wait to tear him apart. When Lin Fan, who was hidden in the void, heard these complaints, he could not help but sigh out. This Wang Xiaoming was way too savage. In order to scam someone of their treasures, he had even cheated their emotions. If he had just taken the other party with him back then, wouldn't he have gotten their treasure as well? Was there a need to take away the treasure and not the other party? Brainless. He was way too brainless. Cough, cough. Wang Xiaoming coughed out lightly, implying his innocence. One should not always look back on the past. And even if one does, it should be just to reminisce over it. I've long forgotten about those things, so you guys should be more magnanimous as well. If there's anything, let us sit down and have a good talk about it slowly. In these past years, I've regretted countless of times as well, and had been wanting to repent before you guys. But, since you are all here, then come on in and listen to me explain through things. And, if you guys still have pent-up anger, then come and chop me. Even if I die, I'll die without regrets. Boom. The moment Wang Xiaoming was done with his words, the door to his base swung open. The geniuses exchanged glances with one another, and were flustered for a moment. They did not know what this devil's incarnate was up to once more. What are we afraid of? There are so many of us. It's not as though we could be afraid of him. That's right, we are not who we used to be. Even if it's a solo fight, we won't lose to him. Even if the devil's incarnate does not wish to fight, the hatred within our hearts have accumulated over days and night, and we can't ever get rid of it. If we don't vent it out now, it's going to be a huge obstacle in our path of martial arts moving forward. Go, let us go. Instantly, the masses landed on the ground. They then perked up their attention to prevent the devil's incarnate from sneaking in an attack on them. However, this time around, with their full force pushing forth, they had a formidable force to be reckoned with. How could they be afraid of a mere devil's incarnate? Hiding somewhere in the depths of the voids, Lin Fan did not know what Wang Xiaoming was up to. Could he truly have had a change of heart in these 100 years and was now ready to detach from these worldly affairs? But when Lin Fan cast his consciousness over the entire base, his face changed. This mother CKER. Wang Xiaoming was still the FCKED up Wang Xiaoming. He hadn't changed in the least bit. How are the preparations coming along? Wang Xiaoming was warming up at this moment. Later on, it would be one hell of an intense escape. Great King, we're all prepared. Everyone has already packed their things and are ready to escape. Good. These fellas are absolutely relentless. This time around, if I don't give them one hell of a harsh impression, they're going to think that Wang Xiaoming is a pushover. Wang Xiaoming hollered out as his entire body's aura skyrocketed. Long live the Great King. Our Great King is invincible. For all of these baddies, after they joined under Wang Xiaoming, there was no way out. Therefore, they could only stick with this road to the end. If he rose, they would rise. If he fell, they would fall. Therefore, if they wanted to keep their lives, they would have to fully cooperate with Wang Xiaoming. Have everyone get ready. We'll give them a good display of everything we've researched in all these years. Wang Xiaoming declared. Yes. At this moment outside the doors, a group of people stood there. Do you guys feel like there's something wrong with the atmosphere around here? Doesn't it seem a little too quiet? There shouldn't be any dangers though. While Wang Xiaoming may be strong, faced with this many of us, he doesn't have the capabilities to fight against us. However, everyone should still watch out. This Wang Xiaoming is full of tricks. Who knows what's going to happen next? Rumble, rumble. At this moment, the sounds of gigantic boulders rumbling suddenly boomed out. What's that sound? Not good. Take a look above, guys. Instantly, everyone found that everything above their heads had turned pitch black. It was as though something had covered the sky. What's this? Not good. This thing can corrode our powers. It's no use shielding against it. The void has been sealed. This Wang Xiaoming is scamming us. Aya, what the FCK is this? Why does it stink like this? Ha ha ha. At this moment at a mountain peak far away, Wang Xiaoming floated gently over there as he burst out laughing at this sight below. Look at you bunch of brain-dead FCKs trying to FCK me, Wang Xiaoming, over. You're still way too much of greenhorns. Go back and cultivate for perhaps another 100 years. Wang Xiaoming, you'll die a horrible death. At this moment, the masses were enraged. Ha, whether or not I die has got nothing to do with you guys. You had better take care of yourself first. What you have on your bodies right now is the ultimate weapon that I, Wang Xiaoming, have painstakingly researched over 30 years, ultimate sh*t. From this day forth, you guys will be covered with a putrid smell all over you. Even if you're 1,000 miles away from me, your great king will be able to sniff out the pungent smells from your bodies. Therefore, you must be dreaming if you think that you'll be able to sneak an assault on me next time. Bye-bye now, smelly fellas. Wang Xiaoming burst out laughing and swept his robes before flying into the void. Highs, seems like there's going to be a lot more single men and women in the Xuanwang world from now on. The world has truly changed. Arg, Wang Xiaoming. A series of furious roars burst out into the sky. However, at this moment, Wang Xiaoming had already brought everyone with him and fled far away. Chapter 829. This is a nuts-hurting affair. Chapter 829. This is a nuts-hurting affair. How could this happen? It has been almost 100 years now. I've cultivated hard day and night, and yet, I can't kill a toxic piece of cancer as such. What's the use of me cultivating so hard to this day? Zhao Wuji reared his head and howled into the heavens with absolute anguish. That sticky substance that was covering his entire body had utterly removed any disposition he had as a genius. He had a sort of sorrow that he could not put in words. He escaped once again. Each time around, we would make 1,000 preparations, but yet, we would always let this devil slip out of our grasps. My God, my heart hurts so badly. In order to have this devil's incarnate pay the price, I've spent countless years of my youth. And now, I'm already 100 years old, without even having a partner yet. To think that this vile thing would now taint this snow lotus-like pure body of mine. What am I to do from now on? I don't want to live anymore. Who would dare to come close to me anymore from this day forth? Uck. Instantly, countless geniuses raised their heads and spat out blood with their spirits rattled. Their cultivation roots began to crumble down as though they were going to break down on their own at any moment, and have them enter a state of reincarnation to never come back into this loop ever again. Being able to cultivate to such a cultivation state, all of these geniuses had an extremely resolute heart that wouldn't budge or move no matter what. However, after being FCKED up by Wang Xiaoming, all of the blood chi of these geniuses was rumbling furiously, as their cultivation states entered a state of instability. For powerful beings, something as such should have never been allowed to happen. While all of these geniuses might have been aided by the heavens, they had still gone through extremely treacherous situations, and had scraped out of extremely dire situations alive as well. Therefore, their hearts should have long been molded into a resolute state like steel. But the fact that they could be pushed into such a state due to Wang Xiaoming's FC kingdom over was because of all those dozens and even 100 years of accumulated hatred. To think that they would bear such immense hate towards someone in their hearts yet could never ever kill the other party after all these years. Not only that, they would have to endure a crazy setback each time around. This was an unparalleled anguish for all of these geniuses. This was especially the case this time around. What ultimate sh*t and whatnot. This had entirely broken through their final line of defense in their hearts. Devils incarnate, Wang Xiaoming. I hate you. What's the use of having this cultivation state? What face do I have left if I can't kill Wang Xiaoming? After this time around, I'm probably going to be a laughingstock of the entire Xuanwang world. I'd rather die than be the laughing butt of the masses. Once my body dies, my path of martial arts shall end. I have no regrets. November LBJNN. Senior and junior brothers, I'll make a move first. I've had enough of enduring the failures time and time again for the past 30 years. Junior brother, head on first. We'll join you closely behind. At this, Lin Fan was completely stumped as well. Was there a need for this? Wasn't it just a couple of failures? Did they have to be in such anguish and despair? If they were to all commit suicide right now, wouldn't his efforts have all gone to waste? Highs, seems like it's all because of me. It's because I've got a relationship with Wang Xiaoming, causing him to be shrouded with fortune all around him. Therefore, even if these geniuses were destined children, they wouldn't be able to outsmart Wang Xiaoming at all. Initially, Lin Fan had thought that given the sheer number of geniuses gathered, even if Wang Xiaoming had Lin Fan's fortune boosting him up, he would be whacked severely back and forth. But, to think that other than escaping, he would be able to build up mental trauma in the hearts of these geniuses as well. And those traumas were evidently far from simple. They practically were aimed straight at their lives. At this moment, Lin Fan felt that it was about time for him to step out now. If he didn't, these destined children might truly end up useless. All of these destined children were extremely distraught. Just as they were ready to lift the sabers and whatnot in their arms to chop down on themselves, they heard a voice. Cough. This voice was like a bright and radiant clock that reverberated out across the entire world, rattling their hearts. All of a sudden, those dark clouds surrounding their mental selves dissipated as a luminescent light shone through that endless abyss, brightening their inner hearts. All of you are geniuses of the glory sect, and your mental fortitude is practically 1 in a million. This is only a single small setback right now. How can you bring up the intent to die? Lin Fan walked out of the void slowly. His back was lit up with an endless amount of bright light beams as that boundless aura of his spread out across the entire world. Everyone had a thought to bow down in respect immediately. Who are you? All of these geniuses raised their heads and looked at Lin Fan suspiciously. They did not know who this person was. And just as Lin Fan was all ready to make up an identity for himself, one of the geniuses amongst them suddenly prostrated to the ground. That's Founder Master Lin. Lin Fan was astonished. He hadn't expected that there would be a disciple who would recognize him. But, when he thought back about that tribute sculpture of his back in Glory Sect, it all came to him naturally. That tribute sculpture looked the exact same as him. As long as one took a few more looks at it, they would definitely remember what he looked like, let alone these geniuses who had been looking at it for dozens of years. All the other geniuses were startled one after another. What, hasn't Founder Master Lin ascended into the upper world? Why is he still in the Xuanwang world? There's definitely no mistake. That's Founder Master Lin for sure. That disposition, those features, that aura. It's definitely him for sure. Thud, thud, thud. Suddenly, a loud commotion broke out as all the geniuses knelt down to their knees. Greetings to Founder Master Lin. They were all extremely familiar with Lin Fan. Ever since they had entered Glory Sect, whether or not they had something to do, they would always hear the tales from the older generations. And, all of those disciples of Glory Sect in the past had all grown up under the loving tender care of Lin Fan. Out of the 9 peaks, Danding Peak was the one that was trained up by Lin Fan the most. For the sake of cultivation, some of these genius disciples required pills as well. Therefore, they naturally had to head up to Danding Peak, and from there, they naturally heard many stories as well. However, they knew that 100 years ago, Founder Master Lin had already broken through the barrier and ascended into the upper world. With that, his status as the strongest man in the entire Xuanwang world was already fixed. All rise. Since he was already exposed, Lin Fan naturally changed his demeanor and let out the airs of a senior immediately. Now, tell me guys, what is all of this for? Isn't this but a minor setback? Do you guys have to act like you're all ready to die just for it? If that's the case, how are you guys going to seek out a higher path of eternity in the future? Lin Fan spoke up. Boo-hoo, please seek justice for us, Founder Master Lin. This devil's incarnate, Wang Xiaoming, is really way too accursed. He had bullied us for the past 100 years. Initially, we had thought that we were pretty accomplished in our martial arts, and could finally regain some dignity for ourselves. To think that we would be met with failure time and again. And right now, we're even tainted with this shameless thing, and can't face the outside world. This stench, who in the world would dare approach us in the future? What hope do we still have of fighting with the devil's incarnate any longer? ... Looking at the sorrowful looks on the faces of these geniuses, Lin Fan's heart was equally saddened. He blamed himself as well for raising the difficulty level way too much. For these destined children, Wang Xiaoming was practically hardcore mode. Even though he was being hunted down consistently, in the process of being hunted down, he could turn the tables and take down this entire army without much effort. This was way too tragic indeed. Please step forth for us, Founder Master Lin. Take down this devil's incarnate and return a brighter tomorrow for the Xuanwang world. At this moment, countless genius disciples started begging. They truly did not see any way of being able to beat this Wang Xiaoming. Not only that, they were nearly driven into insanity by that other party. If Founder Master Lin were to take action, things would definitely be extremely easy. I have long known about this devil's incarnate. Suppressing him will be something that I can do with the back of my palms. However, it's precisely because of that your Founder Master cannot take action. This is because he is your obstacle in the path of martial arts. Only when you guys take him down personally will you be able to attain the true path to eternity in martial arts. From then on, you guys shall be able to skyrocket, without anyone being able to stop you at all. Lin Fan replied, but, we have dueled him for 100 years now. And yet, we haven't gained anything out of it. How are we to have the confidence from now on forth? Everyone was feeling extremely disheartened, their hearts bubbling with exasperation. Looking at these genius disciples, Lin Fan felt his nuts hurting as he cast his sight at one after another. For a moment, he even felt his nuts bursting. If this were to carry on, how was he to move them on in the future? The reason why he cultivated the Xuanwang world was in the hopes of creating peerless powerful beings. By then, he would be able to have greater confidence in fighting against the heavens will of the ancient saint world. And right now, he was practically on the cusp of succeeding. But to think that they would lose their fighting wills one after another. This was not good. Chapter 830. You are all main characters of this universe. Chapter 830. You are all main characters of this universe. Highs, forget it. The way you guys are right now is leaving the heart of your Founder Master in pain. Since that's the case, your Founder Master shall raise your potential to your pinnacle states right now. But first, I've got to get rid of all this stuff on your bodies. Lin Fan thought about it for a moment. If he didn't give these guys some benefits, there was truly no way to reignite the fighting spirits of these destined children. A stream of water spiraled and flowed out of Lin Fan's body. This was the connate element of water which could cleanse anything in this world. Now that the big ancient demon had completed all 5 elements, it could be used with an extreme ease, and they possessed an immense amount of capabilities as well. The connate element of water was like a gigantic dragon right now that wrapped itself around every single destined child. A mysterious energy seeped into the bodies of these destined children, cleansing their bodies entirely. Ah, it's gone. The stink is gone. Could this be the connate element of water from the legends? That's right. It must be. Founder Master Lin has cultivated the connate element of water to a state of full cultivation. As such, it can cleanse away everything in this world. What can all this filth amount to? The Founder Master is not the Founder Master for nothing. I couldn't even wash it off with my menses blood, and I had thought that my entire life was going to be over just like that. But, to think that in the hands of the Founder Master, I would be given a new lease of life once more. All of these destined children still lived in the Xuanwang world no matter what. Therefore, there were some treasures they couldn't get their hands on at all. This was the case for the connate 5 elements. While they were present in the Xuanwang world, they existed in extremely scarce quantities. As such, if Lin Fan had enough Shenyang pills, he could then use the precious treasures descend from the heavens, allowing the resources of the Xuanwang world to grow and turn rich. Alright, let your Founder Master here raise your potentials. This time around, Lin Fan was prepared for it. He did not dare to guarantee that he would have confidence in suppressing the heavens will on the day of the infinite world's opening. However, if he raised the potentials of these destined children, he might have a shot at it. The potentials of these destined children were already pretty decent to begin with. If he could raise them up to the peak, they would definitely be like fishes which had found water, and there could definitely be no one up or down in the world who could compete with them. Raise potentials. That's something that only elixirs can do. That's right. There is a myriad of skills in the Xuanwang world, but there's been nothing which can raise one's potentials. Right now, we have already cultivated to divine celestial cultivation state. Even in the ancient saint world, we could be considered slightly powerful beings. But, to think that Founder Master Lin would be able to raise our potentials with ease. If that's the case, how formidable is Founder Master Lin truly? Horrifying, just horrifying. Lin Fan stretched out his palms. His fingers were so vast that they seemed to be grabbing the entire world within his hands. A mysterious energy moved out of his palms like water ripples that encircled out ring after ring before covering the heads of these destined children. Training. Raise. Instantly, a torrential aura burst forth from the bodies of these destined children. For these destined children, the raising of their potentials were akin to unlocking a secret dam within their bodies, which allowed all the floodwaters to gush out entirely. Initially, the fortunes of these destined children were already similar to gigantic dragons that were swiveling around their heads. But after Lin Fan raised their potentials, it was as though he had just granted them the grace of rebirth. With that, their relationship with Lin Fan went through a thorough change. Boom! Their fortunes pierced the heavens. With so many people involved, the sky was fully encompassed in fact. Given a fortune as such, that was just outrageous. They could practically kill any gods and Buddhas they would ever bump into. Even if Wang Xiaoming had Lin Fan's own protection, if he were to show his face, he might very well be walloped devastatingly by these destined children. Slay! Lin Fan extended his finger and an invisible sword sliced away at all the fortunes that were related to him. Grabbing out with his palms, he cultivated them into fortune pills and kept them in his storage. He had better safekeep these fortunes for now. The time Wang Xiaoming could lure these destined childs into their pinnacle states, Lin Fan would return them their fortunes. Perhaps something unexpected might happen by then. Instantly, all the destined children broke out into a huge commotion. How could this be? I can feel my potential raised. Me too. There were many things that I could not understand in the past which suddenly makes sense to me right now. I've already been stuck at the Divine Celestial Level 7 state for a long time now. But suddenly, I feel like I can just break through it and cultivate my universal elixir. This is the transformation of potentials. Boom. Instantly, all these destined children collapsed to their knees and kowtowed emotionally while they yelled out with flushed faces. Our gratitude to the Founder Master for his grace of granting us a rebirth. The destined children were once again reignited with a boundless amount of fighting spirit. They could feel an endless amount of energy cruising through their bodies. No matter how strong the devils incarnate, Wang Xiaoming was, they would no longer fear him. Yes, you must remember. One must never bow down to fear. There are still matters awaiting you guys to settle in the upper world. All of you are the main characters of this universe. You are the hope of the future that is awaiting salvation. Lin Fan nodded his head calmly before disappearing from where he was. Yes, Founder Master. This final sentence by Lin Fan had invigorated the hearts of these destined children. They were the main characters of the universe. The hope of the future. The entire world was awaiting them to bring forth salvation. At this moment, the masses could only feel that the burden on their shoulders had gotten heavier. They seemed to be carrying the weight of the entire world on their own 2 feet. This casual, scammy sentence by Lin Fan had filled the hearts of these destined children with hope. In fact, their fighting spirits were even more exuberant. November LBJNN. This was something that Lin Fan had wanted to see. 10,000 miles away, Wang Xiaoming hopped about happily in some area out in the world. For Wang Xiaoming, everything that had just happened was something that he was long used to. In the past 100 years, these fellas had been launching all sorts of sieges against him. But each time, they would be reverse FCKED by him. This was something that brought tons of joy for Wang Xiaoming. Hee, these brain-dead FCKs think that they can mess with me. Why don't they take a clear look at who I am? This time around, I've got to go check out the other cities. The feeling of bullying others is just the greatest. Only, it seems like that number of people who are hating me is just increasing. If this number were to double, that would be out of hand. At this moment, Wang Xiaoming was contemplating over a big affair of his life. In these past 100 years, he had been playing non-stop all the time. However, there was something that amazed Wang Xiaoming. Even as he was playing, his cultivation state was being raised at the same time. And with his cultivation state getting higher and higher, Wang Xiaoming felt like days like these were truly just the happiest. But at times, Wang Xiaoming too would feel a little tired. It was just that there was no return on this path. Highs. Wang Xiaoming sighed out, feeling a little bleak towards his future. Xiaoming. At this moment, a voice sounded out from behind Wang Xiaoming. Wang Xiaoming was startled as his expression changed. To think that someone would be able to sneak up to him undetected, without making a single sound. This had Wang Xiaoming feeling a little nervous. But, when he caught sight of who it was, Wang Xiaoming's face changed into one that was extremely emotional. Uncle Lin. At this moment, Wang Xiaoming felt that his world had just brightened up. Boo-hoo. The devils incarnate, Wang Xiaoming, suddenly collapsed to a thud and hugged Lin Fan's thighs while crying out, Uncle Lin. Save me. Chapter 831. Uncle. Mingming's heart hurts. Chapter 831. Uncle. Mingming's heart hurts. Lin Fan looked at the widely infamous devils incarnate of the Xuanwang world, Wang Xiaoming, bawling his eyes out at his thighs. If anyone else were to see this, they would definitely be so shocked their jaws would drop right down on the spot. Xiaoming, don't cry anymore. Lin Fan fondled his head gently, consoling him. No, uncle, you don't have to console me. Xiaoming really feels like crying right now. Wang Xiaoming was truly feeling aggrieved in his heart. All these years had really been way too trying for him. No, what I meant is that even if you want to cry, can you not do it while hugging your uncle's thighs? All your snot and tears are being rubbed on me. Lin Fan remarked in wild disdain. Wang Xiaoming raised his head and blinked his eyes while looking at Lin Fan. Feeling that was being ostracized at this moment because of his actions, he commented out in sorrow. Uncle, Xiaoming feels miserable inside his heart. Wang Xiaoming said out sadly. What are you miserable about? Haven't you led a flamboyant life in the past 100 years? There is a whole bunch of geniuses out there who've been bullied by you. And you even turned into the cuckold next door hooking up with the chick of some other family. Heck, even the child is yours. And you are telling me you're miserable. When Lin Fan heard Wang Xiaoming complaining, he felt a little helpless. How could this guy be this shameless? He toyed around with those geniuses like they were monkeys for a full 100 years. And for him to mess with 10,000 people, it was needless to even elaborate on the process. This was especially the case for those female geniuses. Lin Fan wouldn't believe that Wang Xiaoming didn't take liberties with them even if it would cost him his life. The moment Wang Xiaoming heard this, his face froze up as he could not understand. Uncle Lin. What cuckold next door? What child? They're framing me. I tell you, a long time ago, there was a fella who kept insisting that I stole his wife. I told him I didn't, and he refused to believe me. He even struck at me. Because I could not take that lying down, I retaliated. It was only later on that I found out that someone had impersonated my name. And because of that, I bore this blame on me for dozens of years. No matter who I told it to, no one would believe me. Wang Xiaoming's eyes were brimming with tears. Uncle, the pain in the heart of this baby is something that I can tell no one to. I see. Lin Fan truly had not expected that Wang Xiaoming would be accused of the blame for no reason. And by the looks of it, the crime planted on him was pretty ridiculous. As for those geniuses, how are there so many of them? You can't have been bullying people every day, right? Seeing this sheer number of people, Lin Fan was finding it hard to believe as well. If he had bullied one per day, he would only accumulate 365 in a single year. 100 years meant that there would be 30,000 plus. Given the 10,000 geniuses, if Lin Fan were to divide them out, that was an average of 1 per 3 days. But, it was better when Lin Fan did not mention this. The moment he did, Wang Xiaoming cried out once more. Uncle, I've been wronged. Even after I count the max of the max, I would have bullied 6,000–7,000 people at most. The rest of them are just hopping onto the bandwagon for commotion, and talking about wanting to get rid of me. I didn't even provoke them at all. Now, don't you think that I'm having a hell of a bad luck life? Wang Xiaoming sobbed endlessly. Now that he had met Lin Fan, he could finally pour out all the grievances in his heart. By now, no one even knew who were the ones who were provoking the others. Out of nowhere, Wang Xiaoming had 3–4,000 extra enemies to deal with. If one did not know the truth, they might have thought that he had massacred their entire families. Highs, seems like it has really been tough on you. After hearing the explanations of Wang Xiaoming, Lin Fan truly felt that the former was a tragedy. To think that even something as such could happen to him. However, since things had already come to this, he could only allow it to continue then. Uncle, can we just end it like this? Honestly, it was still pretty fun at the starting few dozens of years. But, the last dozens of years were practically tugging at my life. I miss my parents and everyone back home. However, I can't even return home right now. Look at this, Uncle. As long as I were to head out, I would definitely be met with a group assault within half a day. Goodness, is there even time for freedom anymore? In the past 100 years, I couldn't even get myself a wife. By now, the Wang family could even be considered as having no more descendants. For the sake of how pitiful I am, please help me, Uncle. Wang Xiaoming teared up with deep emotions. This was so heart-wrenching and emotional to watch. Weren't you the one who had let off a genius from your grasp personally? If you had taken her away along with the treasure, wouldn't that have all been fine and dandy? Lin Fan was still feeling that this was all because of Wang Xiaoming himself. He obviously had so many chances that were laid right before his eyes. Yet, he did not cherish them. Who else could he blame for that? Uncle, now that isn't right as well. Did you take a look at that female genius? She was absolutely ghastly. Those features of hers were so hideous you could practically shiver in her face. If not for the fact that she had a treasure back then, how could I even stick my face up there to lie to her? Just that one occasion, I had to face that horrendous face of hers for 3 days and 3 nights. That was so scary that even Mingming's heart now has a scar within. The moment they spoke about that female genius, Wang Xiaoming's inner heart shivered in fear. That was a sin, she was a sin that no one in this world should bear. If not for the fact that his heart was firm enough, he might have been scared to death by her face. Lin Fan had not expected that the days of Wang Xiaoming in the past 100 years had been spent amidst such splendor and amazing things. Do you truly wish to head back? After you head back, what do you wish to do? Lin Fan asked. Yes, I truly wish to head back, uncle. If I give it a count, it's about time for me to head home and take over the seat of the family head from my father. I'll then simply enjoy life, maybe marry a few wives, have a few kids. That would be pretty enjoyable as well. After thinking for a moment, Wang Xiaoming felt that those type of days were the type that he really wanted. And, you never want to bully anyone ever again? Lin Fan asked. Wang Xiaoming waved his hands away hurriedly, no more, no more. After the past 100 years, the moment I bully anyone, I already feel like puking. Once I head back, I'm going to be a good man and help others regularly. FCK me. The moment Lin Fan heard this, he was totally stumped. This was someone who had bullied out a sense of guilt from bullying others. He was completely turning over a new leaf right now. But no, that couldn't do either. Without this special body type of Wang Xiaoming, the progress of those destined children may be pretty slow. He had to let this continue on. Alright, uncle will bring you back now. Instantly, Lin Fan swept his robes and caged up Wang Xiaoming. He then dove through the void. The next moment, they appeared in the Wang family manor. After 100 years, the Wang family was still standing strong, and had expanded their family strength. However, they kept their growth within the city. Right now, the Wang family had grown to a terrifying extent. There were many family members and factions under their family. Uncle, where's my father? Who is that fella? How is he the family head of the Wang family now? Wang Xiaoming looked down at a middle-aged man there in surprise. Xiaoming, it has been 100 years. This is your 6th generation now. That is probably your great-great-grandson's grandson. Lin Fan pointed out as a light screen appeared before Xiaoming. Take a look. Your father, your brother, your nephew's son, they're all cultivating in seclusion. Tell me, if you were to head back now, are you going to fight for the seat of the family head with your younger generations? Lin Fan asked. Aye. The moment Wang Xiaoming caught sight of this, he was thoroughly frozen. He could not even breathe properly right now. All he wanted to do was to cry. Uncle, this is not fair. I didn't even get the chance to experience what it's like being the family head. And now, there are already so many descendants. This sucks. Everything had changed too quickly, so quickly that Xiaoming was finding it hard to come to terms with. Hadn't he just not returned home for a Mother Sea King 100 years, and that was all? Why in the world did everything have to change this much? Lin Fan patted the shoulders of Wang Xiaoming and said in a deep, understanding tone, Xiaoming, listen to your uncle here. Go on back and continue to bully others. Uncle promises you that once the time is ripe, Uncle will give you an entire world. You can then be the world head instead. How about that? With his creator function now, Lin Fan would definitely collect more worlds in the future. By then, it would naturally not be an issue for him to give one of them to Xiaoming. Xiaoming, you aren't satisfied. Make it 2 then. Looking at Xiaoming's silence, Lin Fan thought that it was because 1 wasn't enough. Hence, he added 1 more to the deal. However, what Lin Fan did not know was that the moment Xiaoming heard that his uncle was going to make him a world head, his heart was so overwhelmed with joy it was practically thumping out. Just as he was about to agree to it, he heard his uncle increase it to 2. With that, he was so happy he nearly fainted. Uncle, 3. As long as you agree to give me 3, I'll continue to bully others. Wang Xiaoming said craftily. Sure, no problem, isn't that just 3? Uncle can afford it. At this moment, Lin Fan chuckled out. What a great child this was. He agreed to it with a mere discussion. Obedient. Good. Thank you, uncle. Wang Xiaoming was grinning ear to ear right now. The pains of the past 100 years had long been cast to the back of his head. For the current Wang Xiaoming, all that was in his mind was being the world head. Sure, Lin Fan smiled with satisfaction, then flicked out with his finger. A drop of blood vibrated intensely in the air before entering Wang Xiaoming's body. By now, all of those destined children had had their potentials raised by him personally. If he didn't give Wang Xiaoming some cheats to play with, this guy might truly be killed back and forth by those geniuses. Chapter 832, Seclusion. I must enter seclusion. Chapter 832, Seclusion. I must enter seclusion. Goodbye, uncle. Wang Xiaoming looked at Lin Fan earnestly and waved his hands. After Lin Fan left, he let out an excited look. All of you heard that, didn't you? In the future, your great king is going to be the head of 3 worlds. Those geniuses think that they want to come and fight with me. They're way too naive. Why don't they take a look at who's backing me up? HMPH. Wang Xiaoming opened up his paradise and let out all the baddies. Great king, are you really tired of it all? Are you going to abandon us? The moment those baddies got out, they asked in a saddened tone. Right now, they were all on the same ship as Wang Xiaoming. If Wang Xiaoming were to disembark from this ship alone, they would be in for it. Who said that I was tired? Wang Xiaoming cast them a side glance while asking. If he was tired of it, he would truly be a fool. How meaningful was life like this daily? But just now, that was my Uncle Lin. In front of my Uncle Lin, I naturally had to present myself in a slightly aggrieved manner. How else would my Uncle Lin give me any benefits? Do you think that I've messed around my past 100 years for nothing? How could I not understand the thoughts of my Uncle Lin? Your great king here is the whip for those geniuses out there. I'm here to guide them towards improving themselves. While it may be quite the tough job, but the joys are immense. Everything that Wang Xiaoming had told Lin Fan earlier on was all made up. While he might have been a little frustrated with being hunted down for the past 100 years, he was totally enjoying himself. That Wang family head's position. How would he be bothered about that? Great king, who in the world is that Uncle Lin? By now, all these baddies have thoroughly submitted down into the might of Wang Xiaoming. They were once baddies who would do any and every crime. If they were targeted down by any powerful beings, it would be one hell of a headache for them. But, their great king here was different. Even after being targeted by a huge bunch of powerful beings like that, he could still live life extremely flamboyantly. This was something absolutely inconceivable. Hue, that is the backing of your great king, the strongest being in this entire universe. Alright, what are you guys asking so much for? Let us go forth to the next base. Thankfully, your great king is someone with foresight and have already prepared countless of bases ready. As for those geniuses, we'll just play with them slowly. Wang Xiaoming was filled with fighting spirit right now. This was especially the case after meeting with Lin Fan. He was now extremely confident. Weren't they just geniuses? By the time he toyed with them till the end, your great king was going to be a man who would rule over a world as the head of it. As for those guys, they were just the early game fun. Might be to our great king. While the baddies did not know the actual background of Lin Fan, the moment they heard their great king speak about it all, they knew that Lin Fan must be one hell of an outrageous fella. As long as he was outrageous, that would do. Everything within the Xuanwang world was within Lin Fan's control. While all of those geniuses might be suffering a little here and there now, it was all for the sake of turning them into powerful beings at the very top. Therefore, he could only leave it as such. Ancient Saint World, Colossal Dragon Race Base. Lin Fan retracted his consciousness from the Xuanwang world. Time had only gone by a single day, and that was all. Opening the door, Lin Fan felt that it was about time for him to leave the Colossal Dragon Race now. Old bro. At this moment, Chicky flew over from the distance. Landing on Lin Fan's shoulders, Chicky raised his head and looked over at the distance. Old bro, it's time for us to continue heading out to make waves for ourselves. Ah, Chicky. Bloody hell, I still prefer you going kutkaku all over. The way you sound when you talk is really a little too despicable. Kutkaku. Chicky raised his head and crowed while rubbing at Lin Fan's cheeks. No vel b in .c ohm. Ha ha ha, Lin Fan burst out laughing. Chicky had been with him since he was young. Therefore, the depth of their relationship was something that needed no explanation. You seem to have grown yet another tail, and your cultivation state has raised by quite a bit, Lin Fan realized that Chicky's cultivation state had increased once more and was surprised. Seemed like Chicky's parents had put in a little something for Chicky, hadn't they? Kutkaku. At this moment, 3 more figures appeared from the edge of the sky. Chicken Big, Chicken 2 and Chicken Fat. These 3 perverted sons of Chicky had their cultivation states improved by quite a bit as well. However, they looked exactly the same in terms of appearance, ever so perverted. These 3 perverted chicklings landed on the ground and surrounded Lin Fan's feet. They wanted to follow in the footsteps of their father and reign out over the pugilistic world. Highs. This son and 3 grandsons of mine wish to head out. While I may be unwilling as their mother, all powerful beings are molded out by tribulations. I can only hope that you will take good care of them. Zifeng appeared beside Lin Fan and said. As for the god of the dragon ancestor, he could not hope for anything better than this. The moment this son and 3 grandsons of his had appeared, he realized that his position had been dipping down rapidly. And not only that, he had even lost quite a few treasures. This was something that had him torn in his heart. For sure, for sure. Lin Fan cupped his fists together while saying. For Lin Fan, this was something that was only natural. Dearest mother, I'll be heading off with my old bro now. I'll come visit you when I get the chance. Chicky hopped into the embrace of Zifeng and said coquettishly. Be careful out there on the roads. Don't act too bravely either. ... Lin Fan stood at the sides watching. As for this scene, he had experienced it many times before now. However, this time around, he had truly gained quite a bit from this colossal dragon race. At the same time, Lin Fan was a man who knew how to be satisfied. If he had continued to hanker after their wealth, it would be a little too much. There were still quite a few of the top 10 old ancient beast races that he hadn't had the chance to visit just yet. Now should be the time for him to take a look then. The god of the dragon ancestor was trying hard to repress the intention to smile in his heart. When he noticed the human was looking at him, his expression changed slightly as he let out a look of reluctance. Oh, my son, as your father, I can't bear to watch you leave. Now that all of you are going to leave right now, it will be so much lonelier for your mother and me. The god of the dragon ancestor said in a sad tone. Lin Fan pursed his lips. This god of the dragon ancestor was definitely not a responsible father. Those acting skills were way too lousy. The moment Zifeng heard these words come out from the god of the dragon ancestor, she nodded her head, heartened. While this son of his might have taken on the physical traits of the phoenix race in terms of appearance, his bloodline still belonged to that of the colossal dragon race. From the start, she knew that her husband had some unhappiness over this. But the fact that he was able to say words as such had her feeling extremely heartened. Dearest mummy, I don't know how long more it'll take before I can return after leaving with old bro this time around. Father is right, once we leave, you guys will be extremely lonely. How about I leave them behind to accompany you? How does that sound? Chicky was contemplating in his head. If he were to bring these 3 sons with him along and he was to bump into a hen when they were out, he would have no chance to strike at all. If he could leave them here, everything would be fine and dandy. Instantly, the 3 chicklings jerked their heads around furiously and turned to look at their grandfather in a flush. They then ran over to him while twerking their bums. Spreading their wings, they hugged his leg. For them, this place had everything, a good accommodation, good food. Furthermore, they could receive the love of their grandma and grandpa. What sort of joy would that be? When the god of the dragon ancestor caught sight of this, he suddenly realized that something was wrong. The both of you, since this is the case, I think it would be good to leave the 3 of them behind then. That would also save you guys some boredom. Lin Fan was sniggering in his heart. Since you wanted to act, I'll leave them here with you directly and see how you're going to react. The 3 of them were one more perverted than the other. If he were to keep them here in the colossal dragon race, they'd definitely create a ruckus. That works too. Naturally, Zifeng felt great about this. This would spare them from having no one to accompany them in the future as well. The god of the dragon ancestor had many things he wanted to say. However, at this moment, he was just stunned. For a moment, he wanted to give himself a few tight slaps. It was all his fault for being a big mouth. Kukik-koo. The 3 perverted chickens crowed out in happiness as the bug the god of the dragon ancestor entirely. The god of the dragon ancestor suddenly felt this throbbing pain in his heart. He hadn't expected that things would come to this at all. Chicky, let us leave. Farewell then. Instantly, Lin Fan bolted into the void. And at this moment, the entire world fell silent. The god of the dragon ancestor truly had many things he wanted to say. But, when he lowered his head and saw those 3 grandsons of his who were twerking their bums, he could only weep in his heart silently. Seclusion. He must definitely enter seclusion. He would head into seclusion later on and never appear ever again. Chapter 833. What type of a being is this? Chapter 833. What type of a being is this? So, what in the world should we be doing right now? After leaving the colossal dragon race base, Lin Fan had 2 ideas in his head. One was to head over to the other ancient beast bases to scam out some items before the opening of the infinite worlds. And, the other was to go hunt out utmost beings and wallop him to death in a group, king them over through and through. Because he had some sort of a relationship with the colossal dragon race, it wouldn't be too good for Lin Fan to lay his hands on them. But, the other ancient beast races had nothing to do with him at all. He wouldn't feel guilty in the least bit even if he were to scam them a bit more. As for utmost beings, they had quite a number of treasures with them as well. If he were to kill them, not only would he be able to scam out their savings, he could even turn the heavens will of the ancient saint world into a bachelor. By the time the heavens will were to awaken once more and find out that he was the sole bachelor, that feeling should be pretty darn good, shouldn't it? And just as Lin Fan was undecided, the void rippled out a little. Who's there? Lin Fan's face focused up. While these ripples might be subtle, Lin Fan could easily discover it given his current strength. The Mother *C King Human King is not the Mother *C King Human King for nothing. To think that even the time-space stealth can't escape from your sights. At this moment, a figure draped in black robes tore through the void and walked out. The aura of this black-robed figure was far from simple. Every single step he took had the ferocity of a dragon and tiger, as his feet were shrouded in a black mist. Wherever he stood, it was as though that was the source of all evils in this world. Someone from the Evil Alliance? Lin Fan asked warily. To think that the Mother *C King Human King would be taking notice of our Evil Alliance. That is the honor of our Evil Alliance. The black-robed man could not help but speak out with pride. The Evil Alliance had been in the ancient saint world for a long time now. While their powers were torrential, there weren't all that many people who knew about them. The only ones who knew of the Evil Alliance were the extremely powerful beings. The people that yours truly have met with who possess the evilest aura among all are from the Evil Alliance. If someone had this much of an evil aura like you, where else could you hail from if not the Evil Alliance? Speak now, what do you want with yours truly? Once you're done speaking, yours truly shall take you down entirely. Right now, Lin Fan was desperately lacking Shenyang pills. The cultivation state of this black-robed man was pretty decent, Divine Celestial Level 9, 8 Desolates United State. If Lin Fan could purify this guy and toss him into his paradise to have him spit out Shenyang pills endlessly, that would be quite a decent option as well. The black-robed man evidently hadn't expected that the Mother *C King Human King would say something as such. Given his character, if it were anyone else who had said such words, he would have definitely slapped the other party to death, and have them suffer endless sufferings. But, this person here was the Mother *C King Human King. He did not dare to do the same to him. I think you must have been mistaken, Mother *C King Human King. My family's evil lord would wish to witness the Mother *C King Human King's elegant demeanor. At the same time, there is a serious matter he wishes to discuss. I wonder if the Mother *C King Human King would dare to follow me to him. The black-robed man said while calming the rage in his heart. Oh, he wishes to see me. Lin Fan let out a cold smile. He had a thought bubbling in his mind. Sure, Lin Fan wasn't afraid of all this, as he had all sorts of tricks up his sleeves. This Evil Alliance appeared and disappeared randomly. Back in the past, he had killed one of their palace masters. He wondered what this Evil Alliance was up to now. Follow me please then, Mother *C King Human King. The black-robed man spread out his fingers and a black mist rumbled. It then opened up a passageway within the void. The place where this passageway extended out to was a place far on the other end. It was just that before one entered, they wouldn't know what it was at all. Lin Fan came beside the black-robed man. Yours truly doesn't have much of a good impression regarding the Evil Alliance. However, since yours truly is invited, yours truly would naturally turn up for the invitation. It's just that yours truly is lacking in manpower these days. Since you look pretty decent, you should come and serve yours truly then. Suddenly, Lin Fan struck out. His palm swept through the void, destroying everything in its path. The black-robed man was taken aback. He hadn't expected the Mother *C King Human King to strike just like that. This wasn't something he had not prepared for. He had invited many people in the past. But even those who rejected wouldn't have struck out for no reason at all just like this. The energy penetrated through, slicing the black-robed man into two clean halves. November LBJNN. Mother *C King Human King. Why would you do this? The black-robed man hollered out while his flesh and meat struggled. A torrential anger rose within him. However, at the same time, he was filled with fear. To think that the strength of this Mother *C King Human King would be this tyrannical. Purify. Lin Fan's finger was filled with a light of purification. Flicking out with it, Buddha light stretched out and wrapped around the black-robed man like a banner. Serve under me obediently. To purify someone as such, all it required from Lin Fan was a single move to cripple him before casting purification. Thousands of Buddhists surrounded his body while singing out Buddhist scriptures. The black-robed man howled out. It was as though the black mist that was surrounding his body had met with something terrifying, letting out buzzing sounds. Ding, purification success. Master. Gradually, the black-robed man spoke up slowly. He no longer had the same evil aura as he did before, now looking benevolent. Show yours truly your face. Hiding under that black robe day and night, is it because you're too good looking? Lin Fan hated how everyone would always hide beneath black robes. Like were these mother f***ckers trying to act cool or what? Or, was it because they were too handsome that they did not want to be recognized? But, when this black-robed man pulled off the hood of his black robes, Lin Fan's face changed. Was this even mother f***c king still a human? The black-robed man before him did not have any of the five senses. His entire head was a black mist. There were two red lights where his eyes were supposed to be, giving off a really sinister feeling. FCK, what kind of race is this? Lin Fan was frozen. He was someone who had read intensively. While he hadn't seen all the thousands of races just yet, he had a rough idea of what they were. But, this **T before him right here had Lin Fan not knowing what race he was from entirely. Seems like there's really some problem with the Evil Alliance. Alright, take me to the Evil Alliance. Lin Fan did not want to think about anything more. He wanted to see just what this evil lord wanted. Lin Fan was pretty confident towards his abilities. Since this Evil Alliance was inviting him over, he would naturally not reject them. He would just go straight and FCK up their base. Why shouldn't he have all of them crawling all over the place beneath him? The black-robed man returned to how he was as his aura turned evil once more. Lin Fan then followed behind him and entered that passageway. This passageway was really mysterious. It seemed as though he was crossing through some places, as there were all sorts of flowing light beams around him that were stretched out like banners. In the blink of an eye, Lin Fan noticed that his surroundings had changed. The entire world seemed somewhat different. The skies were dusky and blood red. This entire place seemed like hell. This should be a world that was opened up by someone. After checking it out for a moment, Lin Fan had an inkling of what was going on. Welcome to the mother **C King Human King for descending upon our evil alliance. Please step right in. All of a sudden, a creepy and hoarse voice sounded out. A gigantic, red-colored stone gate up ahead opened up instantly. The moment it swung open, an infinite amount of evil aura gushed out of it, spreading out into the air around it. You are that so-called evil lord or whatnot? Lin Fan called out loudly. With extreme ease, he walked out casually without a single trace of fear. Hooey, come on in please. HMPH, I've got to see just what in the world you're up to. Acting all mysterious and whatnot. Lin Fan snorted out coldly and walked right in. After Lin Fan entered the stone gates, the world around him transformed once more. But the change this time around had Lin Fan looking at something strange. There was a gigantic sacrificial altar that stood right ahead in the distance. In all 8 directions of the sacrificial altar, there were beams of light that pierced right into the sky, seeping into the distant void. There was no way of telling where those light beams were connected to. And, in the center of that sacrificial altar sat a figure on a throne. Beneath this throne were black-robed men standing one by one around. While their auras seemed calm, they were extremely chilling to one's heart. What do you want? Speak up. Lin Fan placed his hands behind his back and raised his head gently. Chapter 834. These gifts of yours truly shall accept them. Chapter 834. These gifts of yours truly shall accept them. Mother **C King Human King, ever since you ascended from the Xuanwang world, you have already attained this cultivation state in a mere couple of years. Your strength is definitely astounding, and absolutely nothing short of impressive. The body of the evil lord was gigantic. Even if he were seated on that throne, he was almost 3 times taller than Lin Fan. The way he spoke was stern and his disposition authoritative. He gave off an extremely bone-chilling aura. Evil lord, if you have anything to say, cut it short. Whatever fart you have to spout, go on with it. Yours truly have no time to waste crapping with you. Lin Fan smiled calmly, unbothered in the least bit. Shing, shing, shing. When the surrounding black-robed men heard the other party insulting their evil lord, they couldn't bear with it as they let loose a ferocious killing intent. Lin Fan looked at these black robes with a contemptuous face, totally unfazed. However, this evil lord had Lin Fan curious now. He did not know what this fellow was. But, he knew that those black robes should probably be the exact same as the one he had purified earlier on. Just what sort of a race was that? The evil lord raised a palm of his that was wearing a pitch-black armor, indicating for all to keep silence. Mother **C King Human King, please do not make haste. The evil alliance has existed within the ancient saint world for a long time now, and is a considerable force. Your evil lord here knows that you have dedicated your heart to fight against the ancient race. Actually, the reason for my invitation this time around is to discuss a matter with you. Perhaps we could even cooperate for it, the evil lord said in a hoarse voice. Each time he spoke, there was a feeling of metal rubbing off against one another. What sort of a cooperation? Lin Fan looked at the evil lord. He knew that the evil alliance could be considered as an enemy of both sides. The evil alliance killed beings of the thousands of races as well as ancient race as well. But, because their base was extremely well hidden, even the utmost beings of the ancient race could do nothing about it. On the day of the infinite world's opening, the heavens shall descend upon us. At that time, you just have to work with us to take down the heavens will. That's all, the evil lord said. That's all, Lin Fan asked. That's right, it's as simple as that. The evil lord chuckled calmly. Don't worry, when it comes to powerful beings, the evil alliance has always treated them in the friendliest of all manners. Yes, that suggestion is pretty decent. I guess I could consider taking them down together. However, as a person, I always have a prerequisite for doing things. And, I always have a clear idea of what I want before that as well. Lin Fan laughed coldly in his heart. The evil alliance wanted to work together to take down the heavens will. Was this mother f***cker joking with him or what? No, vel b in .c ohm. Did they really take him as a 3-year-old kid? What prerequisite? The evil lord sniggered while asking. Lin Fan opened up both his hands. Anyone who is of a different race from myself is someone I should watch out for. All of you guys from the evil alliance seem like neither humans nor ghosts. Who knows what are your motives? Oh, that's right, I don't need to have you answer. I can ask it out for myself. Alright, this guy here who brought me here. Tell me then, what background are you from? You guys should have some motives, right? Lin Fan pointed out to the black-robed man whom he had purified and asked. The evil lord was stumped, not knowing what this mother *C King Human King meant. He then cast his sights at his own underling. But, when he looked over, the evil lord was stupefied for a moment. He then bolted up from that throne of his. The evil lord hadn't noticed at the start. However, at this moment, he had suddenly realized that there was a trace of the Buddha race's aura around his underling. Even though it was imperceptible, it couldn't escape his scrutiny at all. We are fiends of the outworld. On the day the infinite worlds open up, it shall be the day we invade and devour the heavens will of the ancient saint world, while ruling over the infinite worlds. Shut up, the evil lord was enraged. He hadn't expected that his underling would betray him. Boom, the evil lord slapped out with his palm, bringing forth a tremendous amount of power with it. It surged right at the black-robed man, wanting to kill him off. Evil lord, don't get hasty now. How can you strike at someone of yours truly just because you're unhappy over what he said? Are you disregarding the existence of yours truly? Lin Fan swept his robes and all of a sudden, the sky was filled with sword wills that bolted out, keeping the evil lord's attack at bay. Mother *C King Human King, what have you done to my underling? The face of the evil lord turned grim. Outworld fiends, that's unexpected. At this moment, Lin Fan laughed out with a long, knowing laughter. He was suddenly reminded of those things that he had met in the Tuodi shrine back in Xuanwang world. He wondered if those things could be considered as outworld fiends as well. Mother *C King Human King, your evil lord here has wanted to cooperate with you. But, you've done something as such to my underling. Are you disregarding the existence of your lord here? The evil lord scolded out harshly as his eyes glinted ominously. Evidently, he was riled. Hue, disregard you, you don't have what it takes to be regarded by me at all. So, why are you even talking about qualifications and whatnot? The reason why yours truly have agreed to come is so that I can tear up your entire evil alliance and uproot it. But, this is all good and dandy now that I'm at your base. This will save me the troubles of having to find you guys out. Lin Fan chuckled calmly, unbothered about everything entirely. What was this scene supposed to be called? Right, luring the wolf into the chambers. The cultivation state of this evil lord was pretty decent. Divine Celestial Level 10, Eternal God State Being. However, he hadn't obtained the Eternal God Seat. Therefore, for Lin Fan, he was just merely average. If he could purify this guy, that would be a pretty decent option as well. The evil lord hadn't expected that things would turn out as such. His face changed momentarily as his figure flashed and howled out. This long howl rang out far into the distance, filling up the entire world. Boom! All of a sudden, the void trembled slightly as tufts of black mist were summoned out from far away. The black mist then turned into black-robed figures that surrounded Lin Fan. Mother *Sea King Human King, you're seeking death. The evil lord bellowed. Waving his hand, he continued, take him down. Evil lord, yours truly will accept these gifts of yours then. Lin Fan looked at the black robes and could not help but chuckle out. Great sovereign purification. An infinite Buddha light shone out just like banners that extended out from Lin Fan's back. They then seeped right into the void. Shing! A series of ripples extended out from Lin Fan's feet. Circle after circle, a golden lotus that was filled with the power of purification rose from beneath Lin Fan's feet. Lin Fan's face was benevolent right now as he placed his palms together and his body began to enlarge. Instantly, a purification Buddha Lord appeared behind Lin Fan. This Buddha Lord possessed a boundless might that shook the entire world. Placing his palms together, he let out a loud booming sound, causing heavenly flowers to drop down from the sky and Buddhas to descend upon the world. What's that? When the evil lord caught sight of that Buddha Lord, his face changed as he yelped out. Those eyes of his that were filled with rage were now replaced with astonishment. It was evident that he was taken aback. This aura was something that felt extremely horrible for the evil lord. Buddha race. This is the mystic arts of the Buddha race. The eyes of the evil lord were dilated as though he had just recalled something before he shouted out. Evil lord, you're right. This is indeed the mystic arts from the Buddha race. Seeing these big gifts of yours, how could yours truly not receive them? Lin Fan let out a compassionate smile as he looked towards those dense clusters of black robes. He let out an extremely intense thought of possessing them. In Lin Fan's eyes, these were just Shenyang pills. Convert under yours truly, and you shall enjoy eternal freedom. Lin Fan chanted out softly while the Buddha Lord behind him jerked his eyes open. Instantly, 2 golden beams of light burst forth from his eyes. Within those 2 golden beams of light were all sort of weird phenomenon. Buddhas floated all around as countless sutras swam forth. Arg! Wherever the golden light passed, the black robes would yelp out in pain. It was as though their bodies were being eaten up by something corrosive as they let out black smoke. Be starred! How dare you! The evil lord seethed. He had already known that the Mother *Sea King Human King wanted to convert his underlings. Why would I not? Lin Fan smiled out calmly, unbothered in the least bit. Chapter 835, Scared Me to Death. Chapter 835, Scared Me to Death. November LBJNN. Ding, purification success. Ding, purification success. ... Some of these black robes did not have a high cultivation state. However, when placed in the ancient saint world, they were definitely not all that low either. They were divine celestial level 5 and 6 on an average. There were even some level 7 and 8 powerful beings. However, if they were to meet some true geniuses, there wouldn't be an issue in killing 3 to 4 of them at the same level. This mystic art of the great Buddha's light of purification was extremely tyrannical. However, long ago in the ancient times, the purifying Buddha Lord had already been suppressed down by the heavens will of the ancient saint world. And even though Lin Fan had already cultivated the great Buddha's light of purification to a certain level, he was still some distance away from surpassing the purifying Buddha Lord. However, that gap between them was extremely small by now. Haha, not bad, not bad. I'm gaining quite a bit from my trip to the Evil Alliance this time around. Lin Fan burst out laughing. Each time his purifications were successful, Lin Fan would keep them within his paradise. These black robes would then spit out Shenyang pills for him day and night. When he saw that never-ending supply of Shenyang pills stacking up, Lin Fan was happy beyond anything else. At this moment, the evil lord was about to go mad. He hadn't expected this Mother *Sea King Human King to be this overbearing. Everything that he did was beyond the evil lord's expectations. Mother *Sea King Human King. I, the evil lord, shall never rest till I kill you. The evil lord bellowed out in rage. He was so angry that his fingers were trembling. Slapping out with both hands, he sent thousands of palm strikes flying in Lin Fan's direction. In front of the might of these thousands of punches, the entire void crumbled and tore up. The void currents surged out crazily, and even this little world that was opened up was starting to tremble. You're just a mere divine celestial level 10 state being, and yet you wish to kill yours truly. Today, yours truly shall purify you and have you spit out Shenyang pills for yours truly all day all night. Flipping out his palm, the pressure that was sent out from Lin Fan increased as a formidable amount of power pushed against the collapsing void. Boom! A gigantic explosion boomed out, causing the crystallized walls of this world to ripple out with cracks. The void currents were seeping in through all of these cracks, and were rampaging around the entire little world indiscriminately. Damn it! Looking at how his underlings were being converted mercilessly, the evil lord was starting to feel anxious in his heart. This guy was bent on destroying his entire foundation. As outworld fiends, they had tried invading the ancient saint world 3 times now. However, all 3 attempts ended in failure. And, it wouldn't be long before the 4th attempt would start. They were the remnants of the outworld fiends left behind by the previous 3 attempts. Right now, they were here to defend their bases so that on the day of the infinite worlds opening up, they could open up the outworld. By then, they could allow their fellow comrades to infiltrate and gush into this world. But, if they were to be stopped right now, everything would fail. Void Slice. The evil lord stretched out his fingers. Each finger was connected to a black thread that was fluctuating unstably. They were obviously visible right before one's eyes. However, there was an odd feeling as though they weren't there. Shing, shing, shing. The moment the evil lord moved his fingers, the entire void above them started turning into waves that were moving up and down. Shred. As though the void was sliced up by some sharp object, it split up into 5 portions. Mother *C King Human King. Your evil lord here shall shred you into pieces. The evil lord yelled. As he was wriggling his fingers, nothing seemed to be happening on the surface. However, Lin Fan could clearly feel that there was an unstoppable force that was rushing out through from the depths of the void. Void Slice was the foundational skill of the evil lord. It was a skill that was extremely hard to master. However, once he succeeded with it, it would bring forth a power that could shock even the heavens. This was a mystic art that could even stop time. Even the Vajra race, who were known for their physical body toughness, or the giant race would definitely feel fear when they faced this Void Slice of the evil lord. That was because this was the single mystic art that was claimed to be able to slice through everything in this world. Void Slice. That sounds interesting. However, I wonder if this mystic art of mine is able to slice through you. Lin Fan was purifying the black robes while checking out the Void Slice ability of the evil lord. Sword will slice. By now, Lin Fan's Tao of the sword had already been cultivated to a pinnacle state. At the same time, he had already comprehended all 9 sword wills, and could fuse them together into one. This was the Tao of the sword that every single sword wielder could have ever hoped to dream of achieving. However, for Lin Fan, comprehending these were just akin to child's play, something extremely simple. Pointing out with a single finger, he did not have any earth-shattering stance that came through, neither was there any shocking scene to behold. However, just that simple-looking finger alone was enough to cause the face of the evil lord to change entirely. The evil lord who had sliced through the void could feel an extremely formidable power akin to a wild beast rampaging towards him, rushing at him from the void. How could this be? The evil lord was taken aback as the void rippled. That mystic art of his which could slice through the heavens and earth was actually being repelled right now. Bam, bam, an extremely ferocious repulsive force burst forth and caused the figure of the evil lord to waver uncontrollably in the face of it. By the time the evil lord reacted to it, a series of normal-looking sword wills were darting at him, slicing him into 2. Arg! The evil lord, whose body had just been sliced into 2, wailed out in rage. What's this slicing mystic arts and whatnot you have? That's it. Boring. Looking at the miserable state of the evil lord right now, Lin Fan shrugged his shoulders in boredom, unbothered by this guy in the least bit. He then focused all his attention on purifying those black robes. Comparing the evil lord and the black robes, Lin Fan felt that the black robes were slightly more interesting. Ding. Purification success. Evil lord, yours truly shall give you some time now to think about how you want to fight against yours truly. Otherwise, once I'm done purifying these black robes, it's going to be quite the tragedy for you. Lin Fan chuckled out. When he felt the tone of disdain from the other party, the evil lord could feel his heart almost bursting with anger. Arg hhhhhhhhhh. The evil lord howled out in rage as a boundless amount of power erupted forth from him. Even his own little world was starting to quake in the face of it right now. That sacrificial altar was trembling the most intensely. Chaos Fiend Coffin, the primordial source of power that comes from the outworld fiends. At this moment, there a black vortex appeared above the head of the evil lord. This black vortex was immensely huge as though it was connected to a mysterious place. At the same time, light streams were shooting out from all 8 directions of the sacrificial altar, that gushed right into this black vortex as though they were pulling at an unknown object. Mother *C King Human King. You forced this on yourself. Today, your evil lord is going to bring forth all of the powers I can summon and crush you to death. Within the vortex, an immensely huge coffin appeared all of a sudden. This coffin was blacker than anything could be, and was filled with a vile and nefarious aura. It even gave off the feeling that every single source of evil in this entire universe was emanated out of this coffin. Creak. All of a sudden, the lid of that coffin cracked open ever so slightly. Broop, broop. Bubbling sounds arose as though there was water within. Upon closer inspection, jet black water could be seen gushing out of the coffin. Descending down from the sky, it formed a pitch-black waterfall that gushed down onto the body of the evil lord. Lin Fan felt his mental state tensing up. When he caught sight of that pitch-black coffin, he could feel as though his heart was being dragged into it slowly. What a weird sensation. Ha ha, ha ha ha. The evil lord, who was bathing within this black waterfall, burst out laughing menacingly as that endless waterfall continued to rush down on him. A torrential evil aura spread out slowly, capable of bringing fear to everyone. Lin Fan was startled. Waving his hands, he kept all the black robes into his paradise, then strode out with sinior, yet so far. In the blink of an eye, he appeared behind the evil lord. A big red brick appeared in Lin Fan's palms. Smack right on the head. Bam, bloody hell, that gave yours truly a shock. A single whiff of this scent and I can tell that something's off about this. How can I allow you to continue acting so brazenly? Initially, Lin Fan had wanted to see just what else this evil lord could do. To think that this fellow would pull out something so nefarious and sinister. Bloody hell, USH*T. Do you think you're filming a horror film? FC King making everything so damn eerie. Don't you know that yours truly hates the chills? Initially, I thought that I would let you have some fun and act for a little bit. But since you FCKED it up, you can't blame anyone else for it. Lin Fan looked at the fainted evil lord while patting his chest profusely in relief. But just at that moment, a monstrous bellow that sounded similar to the cries of a wild beast boomed out from within the coffin. Lin Fan was astonished as he raised his head over and checked it out. All of a sudden, that little heart within him started thumping furiously once more. Chapter 836, Impossible. Chapter 836, Impossible. Piok. A dark red demonic claw gripped out from the sides of the coffin. When Lin Fan saw this gigantic claw that was covered with gigantic, bloody red scales, his heart skipped a beat. He had a feeling that something horrifying was going to pop out from this coffin. Lin Fan looked over at the fainted evil lord and felt that he was the one being toyed with right now. You bloody fella, after half a day, yours truly thought that you were just trying to show your might. To think that you were seeking out help. Hurry up and get out. Yours truly will fight you fairly one-on-one. This aura was a little sinister as though this was the origin of evil. At the moment the coffin opened up, the entire world seemed to have been consumed by evil. Lin Fan kicked the evil lord a few times. However, the evil lord, who had fainted entirely, did not react at all. Hurry up and get up. You bloody, thump, thump. Before Lin Fan could even finish his sentence, a furious heartbeat sounded out. When he raised his head and looked at the coffin, those wide-open eyes of Lin Fan had its pupils dilated. It was as though he had just witnessed something unbelievable. What in the world is this *T? This evil creature was immensely huge, and its body was shrouded with the origin of evil. There were some curvy horns at the top of its head, with its entire body burning with blazing flames. Bzz, bzz, the entire void seemed to be almost incinerated with the scorching heat. Roarrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr suction force appeared out of it. The fainted evil lord on the ground seemed to be dragged by some extremely strong pull as he flew into the mouth of that evil creature. Initially, Lin Fan had wanted to grab onto the evil lord. But, the moment he touched the body of the evil lord, the black mist that was surrounding the body of the evil lord pounced on him. Lin Fan could even feel his skin being corroded by it. By now, Lin Fan's cultivation state was immensely strong, and his physical body state was even at the pinnacle state. But, to think that this black mist could cause Lin Fan to feel a little troubled over it. That was something pretty incredible. Just what in the world is this thing? N-O-V-E in .c ohm. While Lin Fan may have a pretty vast knowledge of the world, he hadn't seen anything like these evil things before. Seemed like this chaos coffin was a pretty good item. Lin Fan wanted to keep this for himself. However, something that could contain an evil creature as such was evidently not that easy to subdue. Every treasure had a spirit within it. Lin Fan's eyes shone with a sharp glint as he looked into the weapon spirit of this chaos coffin. That spirit was extremely huge, similar to a huge blob of meat. However, this blob of meat was jet black, and even more vile than ordinary demons. It was as though being contaminated by just a single drop of this could turn a Buddha, who could cleanse the entire world, into the vilest evil Buddha in the entire world. Mother *C King Human King. And just as Lin Fan was contemplating about this, a long whip made out of a black light slashed through the void. This black light was extremely sinister looking. As it was swung through the void, a long cut appeared in the void, as it exploded out and was unable to heal back up for a long time. This seems pretty strong. I was nearly split into two by you. This was way stronger than the mystic art the evil lord had used to slice through the void earlier on. However, it was still useless on Lin Fan. The evil lord would win if he could even hurt Lin Fan a little bit. Mother *C King Human King, how dare you purify all of my underlings? This is a grudge that your lord here must definitely reclaim. So what if your cultivation state is heavenly? The Chaos Fiend Coffin is the source of all evils. As long as there is evil in this world, the power of your lord shall always be infinite. As for you, you can just perish in the hands of your lord. After devouring the evil lord, this giant seemed to have been replaced by the evil lord. Bow down to your lord completely and your lord can spare your life. You shall be inferior to no one else but me, and together, we shall rule over the infinite worlds together. Right now, the evil lord no longer had a human form. This monster that was born from the Chaos Fiend Coffin howled out malevolently. All the aura that it spat out turned the chi of the living around the entire area into chi of the Chaos Fiend. While this was the energy required by the outworld fiends, it was akin to venomous poison for the beings of the thousands of races. It could cause the powers within their bodies to go berserk and cause their paradises to wither down. You're getting a little irritating now. Do you think that you're a match for yours truly now just because of this? Lin Fan cast him a casual side glance, not bothered in the least bit. The Chaos Fiend's birth. Unbridled and unrestrained. All of a sudden, the evil lord yelled out a long cry, and an infinite amount of black mist was spat out of that mouth of his. These balls of black mist began to converge continuously, forming runic symbols one after another. These runes flashed with a ghastly light, emanating a boundless amount of evil powers. Instantly, they locked up the entire space around Lin Fan. Mother *C King Human King. You don't have to hide it anymore. Your lord has already seen through you. You are but a mere divine celestial level 9, 8 desolates united state being. And right now, all the 8 desolates are sealed up. Let's see just what else you can do now. The evil lord laughed out wildly as though everything was within the palms of his control. Lin Fan blinked his eyes. Indeed, he could feel that the 8 desolates had been sealed up, and he could no longer sense the gush of power that was rushing in. However, this meant Jack's tea for Lin Fan. HMPH. Evil lord, cut the crap. I'll play with you first. Clang, the eternal axe glided through the world, and a bright flash of axe light appeared. The eternal axe was a legendary weapon. However, it was a pity that it was in a damaged state right now. Lin Fan wanted to see just how strong this evil lord was right now. He had managed to take down the evil lord with ease earlier on. However, the strength of the evil lord had indeed increased considerably, and he was now stronger than ordinary divine celestial level 10, eternal god state beings. Destruction. Firmament. Lin Fan's aura was calm as he flicked his wrist. 2 streaks of axe lights flashed out as though they were 2 dragons coiling together. Boom. The axe light exploded, and 2 deep cuts appeared on the body of the evil lord. However, black mist filled up the injuries, and in the blink of an eye, they were healed up to be perfect as new. Lin Fan had not expected that the strength of the evil lord would become this tyrannical. That 2 axes just now possessed all of his powers. Even if it was a divine celestial level 9 state powerful being, they would be minced into sludges of meat and blood. But, to think that this evil lord would be taking on the blow with such ease. This was something that Lin Fan hadn't expected. Seemed like the strength of this evil lord right now was indeed way stronger than before. Mother *C King Human King, those 2 axes of yours were decent. However, it's a pity that they're useless on your lord. In the eyes of your lord, you are just like a speck of dust in this world that I can crush with ease. The evil lord laughed out coldly as an immense amount of power surged out of his body. His confidence was now over the roof, and he was filled with an endless amount of motivation. Lin Fan did not say anything else. Leaping up, he instantly appeared before the evil lord's face. Slamming out with his fist, it was as though the gods and ghosts had descended upon the world as the doomsday calamity chi rippled through everything. The initial version of the doomsday calamity god fist wasn't all that strong. However, this skill had now been raised by Lin Fan to a pinnacle state. With a single punch that rained out, the calamity chi from far away in the distant plains was pulled through the mysterious space-time towards this punch. If any powerful being were to be infiltrated by this calamity chi, their bodies would start to break down as though it was doomsday. Even if it were a truly powerful being, they would still receive an immense pain. Calamity chi. Good stuff. This is good stuff indeed. The evil lord opened up his mouth widely and formed a vortex that started sucking in these calamity chi and digesting it within his body. Ha ha ha, your lord is an outworld fiend. Every single dark energy would be nothing but nutrient in the body of your lord. What else can you do? The evil lord howled out while grabbing out with his fiendish claw. A sharp blade that was shrouded in a black mist broke out of the void and pierced towards Lin Fan's chest. This sword was imperceptible and the black mist that shrouded it was filled with evil intents, spreading out all over the place. Go and die, sword of corruption, clang, clang. How could this be? The moment the sword made contact with Lin Fan's body, it let out a series of metal clanging sounds. Ding, Eternal God Body Experience Points plus 1000. Hew, Lin Fan smirked and flicked with his finger, causing the entire black sword to shatter into pieces. Not bad, yours truly would acknowledge that you're strong. I'm afraid taking you down would require me to commit that bit of an effort. But, yours truly is tired of playing with you now. I'll take you down right now. With someone like you. The evil lord hadn't expected that this mother**c king human king's physical body state would be this strong. To think that the single sword wouldn't be able to break through it. Well, of course, it's not just me. Alright, come on out. Lin Fan swept his robes, and a series of boundless auras appeared within the world. When the evil lord sensed these auras, he was completely dumbstruck as he yelped out involuntarily. I am possible. Chapter 837. Good. Well said. Chapter 837. Good. Well said. Ancient One, cruel. On the side where the two utmost beings stood, it seemed as though the entire world was about to collapse. Impossible. Impossible. The evil lord seemed as though he was about to break down at this very moment. The moment he felt the auras, he had already sensed that something was wrong. Evil lord, what's impossible? Since you're so damn strong, I'll let these two utmost beings have a good fight with you then. Lin Fan moved his eyeballs and was now gazing at that chaos fiend coffin that was floating gently up in the void. A single look and one could already tell that this treasure was good stuff. Even though the weapon spirit within might be a little on the evil side, as long as it underwent Lin Fan's training, it would definitely abandon the dark side and move towards the light, and turn over a new leaf. Ha ha ha, the evil lord, who was scared witless by the utmost beings, suddenly burst out laughing. And this was an extremely tyrannical laughter with a feeling as though he was looking down upon the masses. Mother**c king human king. The evil lord spoke up unhurried and unflustered. Yes, what's up? Lin Fan chuckled out, not knowing what this evil lord was trying to do. Could it be that he was prepared to admit defeat? For Lin Fan, as one lived life, they should just FCK up anything they were unhappy about. Back when Lin Fan was weaker, he too had admitted defeat as well. However, the prerequisite for admitting defeat was that everything must be done in order to prepare for a comeback. I am an outworld fiend. The evil lord spoke with a calm face. Yes, and then, I am an outworld evil lord. The voice of the evil lord was raised slightly. I know, your lord here has never known fear. I've dueled across the heaven and earth, and have never ever bowed down. Even if it's the utmost beings of the ancient race, in the eyes of your lord here, they are merely fatter ants. The evil lord resisted vehemently. In fact, he was so agitated that by the end of his sentence, he was practically spitting out every single word in rage. Piok, 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 well said. And then, listening to those proud words of the evil lord, Lin Fan could not help but clap his hands, indicating for the other party to continue with his brags. In Lin Fan's opinion, he had to give these brags a full 10 out of 10. Even if two utmost beings are here, your lord shall never quiver in fear. Even if there is no chance of making it out of this alive, your lord shall never fear. That's because the outworld fiends have a dignity that does not allow others to trample on them. You've stepped on my evil alliance. That means that you're making your lord as your enemy, and the outworld fiends as well. Even if your lord is to be killed by you, there are still thousands and thousands of evil lords. On the day of the opening of the infinite worlds, your lord's comrades shall devour all of you guys, and have you guys turned into slaves for the outworld fiends for all eternity. The evil lord hollered out in rage as he gripped his fiendish claws. He was evidently extremely agitated right now. Alright, that is some raring speech you've just made. And then, Lin Fan clapped once more to provide some compliments for this speech that the evil lord had just made. This guy was practically burning with vigor. However, it's a pity that in Lin Fan's opinion, it was worth nuts. Alright, you guys, go ahead and welcome this evil lord properly. Lin Fan waved his hands, not wanting to say anything more. Yes, both the Ancient One and Cruel looked at the evil lord and let out cold grins on their faces. Their bodies alone already had the evil lord feeling fearful, let alone the both of them striking out at the same time. With two utmost beings striking out together, the outcome was obvious to be seen. The evil lord will be smashed into bits without any chance to fight back at all. Step, step, both the utmost beings leapt into the void with huge steps, carrying with them a momentum that was furious like surging waves. This gave the evil lord an irrepressible pressure. Against Lin Fan, the evil lord may have had quite a bit of confidence within him to take down this guy. But, against these two utmost beings, he truly had no way of dealing with them at all. The utmost beings were the most terrifying beings right after the heavens will. Even the truly powerful beings of the outworld fiends would have to take careful steps if they had to deal with an utmost being. At this moment, the Ancient One raised his hands gently and said in a hoarse voice, "One palm strike is all that's required." The evil lord naturally understood the meaning of the Ancient One. He could slap the evil lord to death in a single palm strike. And in the eyes of the evil lord, this was something that was absolutely possible. Hold on. All of a sudden, the evil lord raised both his hands and yelled out. What now? Lin Fan asked in a perplexed tone. Mother *C King Human King. Your lord knows that the only thing awaiting him right now is death. But, even if that's the case, your lord would wish to die an honorable death. Your lord has a mystic art, possesses a monstrous amount of power. Would you dare to let your lord use it? The evil lord barked out. That indignant expression in his eyes were extremely tyrannical. Even if he were faced with the utmost being of the ancient race, he did not show any intentions of fear at all. Ha ha, what, could it be that you don't dare to? Evil lord, dear, you're just delaying time now. But fine, I'll give you a chance then, and let you understand for real. Hurry it up. When Lin Fan heard the evil lord repeat the dare, he was a little pissed off. Wasn't this mother *CKER taunting him? Now that he had two utmost beings in his hands, his battle prowess was definitely earth-shattering. Let alone a single evil lord, even if there were 10 of them who had appeared, Lin Fan could still whack them down without any mistake at all. Great. At that moment, the evil lord roared out. His entire body's aura burst forth as a boundless black mist spread out from him. They were like banners that wrapped themselves around him. Source of all evils. Abysmal fiend realm. Boom. A formidable amount of power erupted out of the body of the evil lord. This power was pretty significant in the eyes of Lin Fan. However, compared to the utmost beings, it was still extremely lacking. Shing. Just at this moment, the chaos fiend coffin began to tremble and bolted out toward the evil lord. Mother *C King Human King. This move of your lord is the strongest move of the outworld fiends. Even if it can't fight against the utmost beings, so what? Your lord has given it his all. Bam, bam, the 10 fingers of the evil lord started exploding at this moment, turning into a thick black mist that converged. These 10 fingers were where the essence of the evil lord's life lied. Now that they had all exploded, this was nothing to scoff at. If he wanted to heal this up, this would take at least 100 years of tireless cultivation. But at this moment, the evil lord could only give it his all. Take this move of mine. Stealing heavens, exchanging earth. The evil lord yelled out. Instantly, the entire place turned dusky as an immense amount of power burst forth from the evil lord's area. Within this dusky mist, the chaos fiend coffin began to break down repeatedly as the weapon spirits within started howling. With the main body breaking down, a blob of pitch black meat began to pulsate and occupy the entire world. Good move. Lin Fan burst out laughing. The Ancient One and Cruel struck together, grabbing at that blob of flesh. Squish. Evil lord, you're shameless and despicable. I am a sacred creature of the outworld fiends, and yet you dare to harm me. All of a sudden, the blob of flesh roared out in rage. But to Lin Fan's surprise, the target of the rage seemed to be directed towards the evil lord. Mother *C King Human King. It's not that I, the evil lord, fears you today. It's because your lord here is at a critical juncture of my cultivation, and am unable to deploy my fullest powers. You just stay there and wait. One fine day, I'll definitely have you sliced up into pieces. Run. Boom. The entire void began to tremble as though the entire little world was about to collapse down at any moment. Evil lord, you're bloody trying to trick me. Lin Fan was startled and enraged instantly. Where was the trust between individuals? You just wait there for your lord. Time slipped off as the space around began to vibrate. All of a sudden, Lin Fan's surroundings began to tremble. This was an unparalleled escape technique used by the evil lord by expending the core essence of his life. In the blink of an eye, the aura of the evil lord had disappeared, and he had fled without a single trace of him left. From the very beginning, the evil lord had already planned on escaping. Given his current strength, if he were to use up his life's essence, there would be no one who could possibly chase him up. But, the fact that he had to run off just like this had the evil lord feeling indignant. Therefore, the reason why he delayed time was to teach the Mother *C King Human King a lesson. This lesson was for the Chaos Fiend coffin to self-destruct, so that it could blow up the other party. Chapter 838. There's bound to be riches where there's bloodshed. Chapter 838. There's bound to be riches where there's bloodshed. Evil Lord, you're going to suffer a horrible death. The weapon spirit of the Chaos Fiend coffin held out. With its main body dissected, it was only left with its weapon spirit right now. While the Chaos Fiend coffin might recognize the evil lord as its master, it possessed a consciousness of its own. Now that it was in deep peril, the weapon spirit of the Chaos Fiend coffin naturally would think of self-preservation. After cultivating this far and going through all sorts of trials and tribulations, how could it die as such? Indignance. An immense feeling of indignance surged into the mind of the Chaos Fiend coffin's weapon spirit. When one walks at the riversides for a long time, they would eventually get their shoes wet. Lin Fan lamented. By the looks of it, the evil lord had wanted to come at him with his life. To think that he would be so cowardly. Being able to run off after putting on an act. How great that must have felt. However, the problem that Lin Fan had to face right now was that the weapon spirit of this Chaos Fiend coffin could explode at a moment's notice. Save me, save me. At this moment, the weapon spirit of the Fiend coffin placed its hopes on Lin Fan. He hoped that Lin Fan could save him. The weapon spirit knew just how frightening self-destruction was. If he were to self-destruct, he would disappear from the face of the world forever, without even a single scrap left. However, he was indignant. He had painstakingly cultivated to this point. If he were to disappear just like that, all of his past efforts would have been for naught. What the FCK is this? Without a main body and only a weapon spirit. Not only that, the weapon spirit could blow up at any moment. Isn't this just absolutely useless? At this moment, Lin Fan was stuck in a slight dilemma. He felt that things hadn't gone all too smoothly this time around. Initially, Lin Fan had thought that he would just purify the evil lord and snatch over all of his treasures. But, by the looks of things now, that was obviously not too possible anymore. This bloody scammy piece of *T evil lord had just put on an act and ran off straight away. And not only that, he had left this fiend coffin in a self-destructing state before running off. It was really a bloody loss this time around, a huge and complete loss. Arg! At this moment, the weapon spirit roared out. The black blob of flesh began to pulsate even more violently, as a boundless amount of power began to seep out of it. Even a single trace of that power was enough to cause the voids to vibrate out. This was an utmost treasure. If an utmost treasure were to blow up, the impact that it could cause would be something that could shake the entire world. Heaven and earth smelt. Without any hesitation, Lin Fan summoned out the heaven and earth smelt instantly, then kept this blob of flesh within it directly. Smelt. Before this weapon spirit were to self-destruct, he might as well smelt it. Who knew if he might be able to smelt out something useful? Save me, save me, November LBJNN. Within the heaven and earth smelt, the weapon spirit was wailing out. As a sacred weapon of the outworld fiends, it had existed for a really long time now, definitely nothing short of 10,000 years. But, to think that it would meet with such an outcome right now. In the blink of an eye, the power of smelting burst forth. Ding! Congratulations on obtaining Evil Thoughts Core. Evil Thoughts Core, source of all evil thoughts in the infinite worlds. Sinister, horrifying, and vile. Myriad of uses. After smelting, it can be used as the source of evil thoughts and take control of all evil thoughts within the world in order to boost one's powers. Side effects not known. Retrieving this evil thoughts core from the heaven and earth smelt, Lin Fan's face was bewildered. What in the world is up with this thing? Lin Fan shrugged his head and tossed it within his storage. When he had the time, he would give it a good look. As for now, he did not want to think too much about it anymore. Now that the evil lord has left, this little world here was about to cave in. Initially, Lin Fan had thought that this sacrificial altar would be of some use. But, After touching it with his finger for quite some time, there was nothing that came out of it. It was just a completely useless sacrificial altar. Let's go. Sweeping his robes, Lin Fan kept the Ancient One and Cruel into his paradise, then broke through the crystallized walls of this little world straight before leaving it. When he arrived outside, Lin Fan looked at his surroundings. For a moment or so, he did not know where he had wandered off to. The evil alliance was hidden within a pocket dimension, and had no fixed location. Every single second, it was changing a location altogether. Lin Fan's position right now depended entirely on where the evil alliance had floated off to. And just as Lin Fan determined where he was exactly, he noticed that there was bloodshed somewhere in the distance. And amidst the bloodshed, there was even a torrential force backing it. There are people fighting. Not only that, there are quite a number of casualties. Lin Fan's brows twitched in joy. He loved it when it came to people fighting. These were the fastest shortcuts to getting rich. Lin Fan was secretly praying in his heart that it was some powerful beings who were fighting. If that were the case, he could earn some profits out of it. In a flash, Lin Fan dove into the void and headed into the distance. Right now, in a patch of sky somewhere, a figure stood tall between the heavens and earth. This figure was calm and expressionless, without any anger or rage. Both its arms were surrounded by golden rings circle after circle. When he jerked both arms gently, the golden rings vibrated, and a boundless amount of power burst forth from it. The powerful figures who were surrounding this lone figure started having their bodies torn apart, creating a rain of blood that showered down onto the world. Arg! A series of horrified cries rang out from the mouths of those living beings who were sitting crippled on the floor. Female Empress, come on out. Otherwise, these fox race beings are going to die because of you. The figure that was standing in the void was an imposing figure from the ancient race. Even though there was only a single ancient race being, all of the fox race beings who had the majority in numbers did not dare to budge a single inch. All of them were shivering uncontrollably. HMPH. You dream on. The leader of the fox race beings was a small girl. By the looks of it, she wasn't all that old, 12 to 13 years old at best. However, her face was firm and resolute. She wasn't fearful even in the face of this ancient race being. Hooey, little brat, you ant-like existence. This ancient race being was an utmost being. His name was Fault. Zan, we will be with you. Around this girl from the fox race were a couple of young living beings surrounding her. These living beings did not look too old either. However, at this moment, they too were unfazed as they looked at that ancient race being in rage. I'm sorry, everyone, Zan apologized. Her master was the female empress. She had been running around, exploring the ancient saint world for the past few years, and had gotten to form a group of young little comrades as well. Later on, she heard that her master had met a sovereign king of the ancient race while passing by her village. Her master then extended a helping hand and helped save her village. However, she sustained some injuries as a result of that. The moment Zan heard about that, she rushed back immediately. And, all of these little comrades of hers followed along naturally. But, who would have expected that an utmost being of the ancient race would appear? Zan, what are you saying? We are all good friends. Even if it's dangerous, we wouldn't be afraid at all. A chick from the Wings race bore a slightly pale look on her face right now. However, she spoke out while forcefully trying to maintain her cool. Zan looked around at the masses with a look of gratitude. Female Empress, since you refuse to come out, then all of these people can go to hell. Fault hollered out. Sending a palm strike across, the entire world shook in the face of it as though it could collapse down. This boundless power descended right down from the heavens. For Zan and the others, there was absolutely no way they could defend against this. And just as Zan and the others were about to be the recipients of this lethal blow's descent, a figure floated out before them and dispersed the punch instantly. Master. When Shuaner caught sight of who it was, her heart tightened up as she cried out emotionally. The female empress raised her head and looked at Fault with a solemn face. Even though she was a powerful being of divine celestial level 10, eternal god state, she was still far too weak compared to the utmost being. She knew that the utmost beings had been hunting down for her and the Namo Saint Emperor. While she did not know how the Namo Saint Emperor was doing right now, she reckoned that he shouldn't be leading too easy a life right now either. Shuaner, take your fellow race beings with you and leave first. Your master shall hold it here for you. The female empress said. Master. But, Shuaner shook her head, not wanting to leave. Hurry up. The female empress pushed. This time around, the female empress knew that the odds were stacked against her. But, if she could even hold him back for a short period of time, that would be pretty good as well. When she had killed off 5 sovereign kings earlier on, she had already sustained some substantially heavy injuries. Even though she had made quite the remarkable recovery by now, she was up against an utmost being of the ancient race. She still had not much confidence towards this. Chapter 839, we'll discuss this slowly later. Chapter 839, we'll discuss this slowly later. November LBJNN. Female Empress, you've slain utmost beings of the ancient race together with the mother *C King Human King. That is heresy to the heavens. How long more do you think you can hold out for? Once your utmost here has you killed, all of those ants shall evaporate along with the world as well. Fault would never forget what had happened back then. They had already lost 2 of the utmost beings of the ancient race. Cruel betrayed them, while Saint was slaughtered. This was an incredibly huge humiliation for the ancient race. This was especially the case now that the beings of the thousands of races were showing signs of rebellion after they were short of 2 utmost beings. This was something that was absolutely intolerable for the ancient race. The day of the infinite worlds opening up would be the day when the ancient race would skyrocket, and these living beings of the thousands of races would disappear from the face of the world for all eternity. Because of that, the ancient race had started mobilizing everyone right now. There were a large number of ancient race beings roaming out there, massacring the living beings of the thousands of races. The purpose of it was to let them know who the true masters of the ancient saint world were. However, it was a little difficult to clean up after the territories of Cruel and Saint. The reason for that was because those guys from the guarded ground were extremely pesky to deal with. But even then, so what if it were the guarded ground? The guarded grounds were places that were bestowed an existence by the heavens' will. Once the infinite worlds were to open up, the guarded grounds would cease to exist as well. At this moment, the beings of the fox race started running off into the distance. Under the cruel regime of the ancient race, they had long been filled with fear in their hearts. The moment they heard the names of the ancient race beings, they could already feel their hearts thumping furiously. And now that they were catching sight of one, they were practically pissing their pants. Resist. This was something that had crossed their minds as well. But they had witnessed what happened to those comrades of theirs who had stood up earlier on. Before the utmost being had even taken much action, they were already turned into dust. This was a horrifying scene that they didn't want to witness again. Want to run? Dream on. All of a sudden, Fault snorted coldly. Those menacing arms of his danced and the void seemed to have been sliced open. Fault, your opponent is me. The female empress flipped out her tender palms, and a mysterious power burst forth from her. This power was transforming endlessly into many forms with all sorts of incredible stances. As she made a gripping gesture with her fingers, the void was like banners that were being pulled out by her. Within it, Fault's powers were tugging out furiously as well, trying to slice apart her palms. Road of the heavens. Stamping down with her tender foot, a pathway to the heavens appeared between the world, suppressing the entire void. Instantly, Fault's powers were dissipated along with its appearance. Fault, while I may not be your opponent, you had better not belittle the living beings in the world as puny and weak. The female empress shouted out. Stepping on the heavenly steps, she walked up one step at a time. Each time she walked up a single step, the aura that was surrounding her would intensify by a certain amount. The royal heaven throne was a legendary object among the royalties of the world. The fact that the female empress was this formidable had an inseparable relationship with the royal heaven throne. But, no matter how strong the royal heaven throne was, when it was faced with an utmost being, it was still pale in comparison. Despite that, however long the female empress could hold out for now, she would try. HMPH. Some capabilities there, but this treasure shall belong to your utmost here. Fault snorted out coldly. Opening his mouth, he inhaled intensely. All of a sudden, the entire world changed as a massive suction force appeared. This suction force was relentless and formidable, as though it was bent on devouring the entire world into his stomach. The royal heaven throne will neither be shaken nor moved. Using both her hands, the female empress steadied her body so that she wouldn't be sucked in by this force. But, just at this moment, something that shocked the female empress happened. Master. Just like everyone else right now, Zan, who had brought her fellow race beings with her and escaped, were sucked back involuntarily. Even if she wanted to resist this force, she couldn't do anything at all. Save me. Ah, I don't want this. All the beings of the fox race started wailing out miserably. At this moment, they were starting to feel fear in their hearts. Royal Road of the Heavens. Sharing of Eternity. The female empress pointed out with her finger. Instantly, jade tiles started to spread out across the heavens one by one under the feet of everyone. At that moment, the powers of the royal heaven throne were shared, and able to pull at everyone. Given the strength of the utmost being's pull, there was no way they could resist it on their own with their cultivation states. HMPH. It'll do for you to protect yourself. But these ants along with it. You've got to be dreaming. Fault scoffed out coldly as a torrential might burst forth from him. A suction force that was even stronger than before emerged. Clang, clang. The female empress realized that her royal heaven throne was unable to resist this boundless power at all. She could not help but get a little flustered. Ah! A shriek rang out. Shuiner, who had been pulled back by the female empress, rose into the air once more and spun around in the world towards the gigantic mouth of Fault. Shuiner. All of the little comrades were panicked right now. The chick from the wings race extended her wings and flapped toward Shuiner. However, under the force of suction, she was barely able to control her own body at all. The female empress swept her robes and her gigantic sleeves coiled out into the world, grabbing Shuiner and that little friend of hers by the waist, then tugging them back ferociously. Courting death, Fault slapped out with his palm. This palm strike swept through the world and the void was repressed so badly that there was even an imprint of his 5 fingers, female empress. I'll let you have a choice out of the two. Either you save yourself or this disciple of yours. Make your choice. The face of the female empress changed. That palm strike that was streaking through the void was nothing to be scoffed at. But, if she chose to let go right bow, Shuiner would be devoured by Fault. At this moment, the female empress clenched her teeth as her universal elixir burst out from her body, a mysterious aura surrounding her. HMPH. Trying to use the universal elixir to defend. Then, your utmost won't stand on courtesy anymore. This universal elixir of yours shall be accepted by your utmost being. Fault burst out laughing. The direction of that palm strike changed and grabbed out at that universal elixir. Gra hhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhh. The power of the sound waves pierced through the layer of void and exploded out. One after another, colossal dragons spiraled up and coiled around Fault's body. Heavenly dragon's music. This was an extremely strong skill that made use of sound waves. At its highest state, it was an unparalleled mystic art where even a single cold snort could rattle a powerful being to death. Fault took on this sound wave brashly as his entire body jerked intensely. That immense suction force disappeared completely because of it. Who's there? Fault barked out as his heart burned with rage. Which B*************** would come looking for death as such at this critical junction? It's me. Far in the distant sky, a lone figure floated gently. Lin Fan hadn't expected that it would be the female empress. And to think that her opponent would be Fault. Could he have already made it to Fault's territory? Whatever he lacked, he would meet with. Who else could compare with such fortune of his? Now that Fault was single-handed, there was only a single outcome for him. This guy would be subdued by him obediently. The female empress turned her head over. When she caught sight of that lone figure there, her expression changed slightly. Shuiner, who had barely escaped death, was now huffing heavily and patting her chest. She turned her head into the distance curiously as well. But when she looked over, her face changed entirely. At first, she was overwhelmed with joy. But all of a sudden, as though she had recalled something, she lowered her head and averted her gaze. What's wrong, Shuiner? It's just been a few years and you've forgotten about me. Lin Fan looked over and saw through Shuiner immediately. While she might have grown up, that look and aura of hers were something that Lin Fan couldn't wipe from his heart ever. Be big brother Lin, Shuiner hasn't. At this moment, Shuiner's voice was like a mosquito, as though she had done something she was ashamed of. If one didn't pay attention, they might not have even heard her voice. We'll talk about this slowly later. Lin Fan laughed icily in his heart. This little brat had scammed him so thoroughly back then. If he didn't deal with her properly, he would truly be letting himself down. But at this moment, Lin Fan still had to give this utmost being a good look first. Chapter 840. Come, let's fight. Chapter 840. Come, let's fight. It's you. When Fault caught sight of who it was, his mental state was rattled as if he had just seen a ghost. He would never ever forget what had happened that day. And now that this human had appeared and Saint had never appeared ever since, it was evident that Saint had already died. Being able to kill an utmost being of the ancient race, this was something that was absolutely impossible in Fault's eyes. The power of an eternal God state being who had obtained the eternal God seat wasn't something that one could possibly imagine. Taking down an utmost being wasn't something that even multiple powerful beings of the same cultivation state could achieve. And, if an utmost being wanted to run, there was no one who could stop him. Fault, to think that we would meet once more. This time around, you're not going to be able to escape. Lin Fan was still in a huff right now. To think that he would let that trash of an evil lord escape from his grasp. Wasn't that just a form of humiliation for himself? If anyone else were to find out about that, wouldn't they laugh their jaws off? Fault checked out his surroundings. When he noticed that there was no one else around, he heaved a sigh of relief and burst out laughing. Ha ha, just you alone. If that old thing, Feng Qingzi, was around, your utmost being here might even be a little wary or whatnot. But, it's a pity that there's just you here. You're far from qualified. That incident back then had Fault truly feeling afraid. To think that both the utmost beings would be whacked so badly by the other party. Not only that, they had even lost an utmost being. Zan Zan, who is that man? When the little comrades of Zan Zan caught sight of how this human would dare to stand up against an utmost being, their hearts were filled with curiosity. He is my big brother Lin, Shuaner said in a soft whisper. She had a feeling that once this matter blew over, big brother Lin would definitely give her a good bashing. The moment she was reminded of those fists of her big brother Lin that were filled with love, Shuaner suddenly felt that the entire world had just turned that bit scarier. Female Empress, are you alright? Lin Fan glanced over at the female Empress, asking. To think that the female Empress would be leading such a miserable life right now that she even had to put out her universal elixir. Wasn't that just looking for death? The universal elixir could be said to be both the strongest and the weakest part of a warrior. For one to display their universal elixir before other powerful beings was undoubtedly just courting death. If he hadn't arrived in time, the universal elixir of the female Empress would most probably have been snatched over by Fault. And by then, she would be a thoroughly handicapped cripple. It's alright, I'll be able to recover in a bit and fight together with you against Fault. The female Empress knew of Lin Fan's strength. Even though he was extremely strong, he still had quite a bit of difference between him and the utmost beings. It's alright, it's just him alone, this will be a walk in the park. Lin Fan replied indifferently, unfazed by Fault in the slightest bit. The female Empress was startled, not knowing why Lin Fan was so confident. This was an utmost being, not some ant by the roadside. If it were truly that simple, all of these utmost beings would have been slain countless times over all these years. How else would things be at a level as such? Big and bold words. The moment Fault heard these words, he burst out laughing maniacally. His aura was torrential, with mighty gales gusting out. The entire world was under his control. Your utmost only needs a single palm slap to crush all of you ants beneath me. The only outcome of going against the ancient race is death. Furthermore, you are a being that the ancient race is bent on killing. November LBJNN. Fault barked out. There were many enemies of the ancient race. But, someone of the human race who could have the ancient race hating them as such. Lin Fan was the only one. Go to hell, the utmost being Fault blasted out. His body flashed as his speed reached an extreme point where even the void was starting to be contorted, letting out a series of crackling explosions. Watch out, the face of the female Empress changed. She knew of the strength that an utmost being possessed. It was unmatched. For the past 10,000 years, she and the Namo Saint Emperor could only hide without revealing their faces. That was because if they were targeted by the utmost beings, their outcome would be absolutely horrendous. The utmost being opened up both his arms and spread out his fingers, hugging at Lin Fan. All of a sudden, the left and right sides of Lin Fan seemed to be pushed in by an invisible force as they collapsed onto him. This time around, it seemed as though Fault was hell-bent on crushing Lin Fan cruelly. This shall be the doomsday of you, ant. Come. The utmost being Fault said tyrannically. However, right at this moment, his expression changed as he began to stutter in his speech. It was as though he had just seen something horrifying. This. Fault's breathing was turning hurried all of a sudden as though his entire heart was palpitating furiously. What's what? Why now? Could it be that you're afraid? Come, rush over and hit me. Lin Fan chuckled out calmly. Sweeping his robes, the powers that were trapping him from left and right dissipated instantly. And before Lin Fan stood two figures. The moment these two figures appeared, it was as though the entire world went silent. When the beings of the fox race caught sight of these two figures, they were frightened so badly that their faces were pale as a sheet, and their legs were wobbling uncontrollably. As though they had just been dealt with an unspeakable blow, they collapsed onto the ground in a crippled manner while looking absolutely dumbfounded. The female Empress was equally astounded at this moment. These two figures were way too inconceivable for the mind of the female Empress. Cruel, Ancient One, this is not possible, impossible. Fault yelled out as though he had just seen a ghost. He knew that Cruel had switched sides. Therefore, he naturally did not have that much of a reaction towards him. But when he saw the figure beside Cruel, he was practically exploding right now. This was a figure he would never forget for his entire life. That was the Ancient One. But, wasn't the Ancient One already dead? How in the world could he be appearing here right now? And the thing that had Fault even more frightful was the fact that the Ancient One's powers seemed to be way stronger than before. This. In a flash, Fault stopped in his tracks. Ancient One, you're an utmost being of the ancient race. How could you be with this human right here? Fault howled out. Everything, every single thing, was way too unimaginable for Fault. What in the world had happened to this world? Just what sort of background did this human have? Not only had Cruel defected, but even the Ancient One. All of a sudden, Fault realized that there was something off with the expression of that human right now. Go, take him down. Lin Fan did not waste time on speaking anymore. The matter with the evil lord had dealt an immense blow to Lin Fan. There was no more room for trust between individuals. Now that he had met with the situation, he might as well cut the crap and just FCK up the other party. Yes, the Ancient One and Cruel nodded their heads furiously. As they took a step forth, the entire ground cracked out like the back of a turtle's shell. Their figures disappeared from where they were instantaneously. The next time they appeared, Fault was already surrounded by both the utmost beings. That initially arrogant Fault was breathing heavily right now. He had suddenly realized that the odds were really stacked against him. Ancient One, back in the past, I've treated you. Bam! Before Fault could even finish his words, the Ancient One had already struck out with a fist. This earth-shattering and formidable force exploded out immediately, pulling in everything in the surroundings along with it. Ancient One, we're of the same race. Fault dodged furiously. The power of two utmost beings wasn't something that he could handle at all. This was especially the case for the Ancient One. That power of his alone wasn't something that Fault could fight against. As for Cruel, Fault wasn't exactly bothered by him. After all, he was way weaker than Fault himself. But, no matter what, he was still an utmost being. If Fault were to slip up, he would be left with nothing but death.